and gentlemen, let's go. We ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
And it's got so many cool applications, and it's, like you said, launched on Wednesday, so there's so much going on right now and so many different things that you can do to create your sports content the way you see it, the way you like it.
What if I wanted to show my hoo-ha? Could I do that?
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, a Wednesday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco and Beards. We head up until 2 o'clock. We've got you for the next 4 hours. We'll talk, a lot of things today. We'll get into some college basketball, some Major League Baseball, some NFL football. So a lot of stuff on the docket today that we will talk about. 913-912-4810 is the text line. 913-912-4810, the text line to join us to be part of the show today. We will hang out with Todd Leabo coming up at noon. He will be in Surprise, Arizona. And I was thinking about this last night. It's a great, the name, Surprise, Arizona, hey, Surprise is there, like we've heard that, before.
Don't look at the hour of the podcast title when Leabo was on with us yesterday.
I saw it yesterday, actually.
You think you've had it for a long time. That's where my grandma moved. My grandparents moved to Surprise, Arizona. They sent us letters. My mom sent them letters with an exclamation point.
Oh, yeah?
No way the USPS appreciated that.
Whenever I read somebody's byline, like, for instance, Annie Rogers, yesterday she had the update on now it's center field with Drew Waters' injury. Scott Barlow has a two-seamer that he is developing because his four-seamer he felt like was a little too straight, so his two-seamer with more movement. And each time I read her byline, when it says Surprise, Arizona, like last night, again, it was like the fourth time I've done it, that surprise, the Royal Center Field competition narrowed itself down, some already in camp. Surprise, that happened. Like, that is kind of a surprise that this early in that the center field competition would be narrowed down to, hey, Kyle Isbell, you're the starting center fielder. But that's what happens with injuries, and hopefully Kyle Isbell will just simply stay healthy. Because right now, Kyle, you are the starting center fielder. There is no competition between you and Drew Waters because, surprise, it's narrowed itself down this early in camp. I don't know if there'll be any other surprises along the way that will happen, but we'll talk with Todd Leabo coming up at noon. But I do that so often. Like, from time to time, I'll just start reading it, and then it's in all caps. When you go to MLB.com and Annie Rogers story, it's in all caps, surprise, and then the story.
It's a good thing you don't cover any of the teams who have spring training in Whoopsie-Daisy, Florida.
That's exactly right. Whoopsie-daisy, the Royals, that would have fit with this one as well.
Drew Waters, Whoopsie-daisy.
Whoopsie-daisy, the Royal Center Field competition narrowed itself down, some already in camp.
Reporting live here from, oh God, no, Washington, I'm Annie Rogers.
And the Here We Go Again camp down in Arizona. From Here We Go Again, Arizona. Here we go again, the Royal Center Field competition narrowed itself down, some already. Here we go again, somebody the Royals were going to be counting on has an oblique strain.
From Buckle Up Buttercup, Nevada, ESPN.
It could be worse, New Mexico. It could be worse. The Royal Center Field competition narrowed itself down, some already in camp. But yeah, it is, a year ago, the same thing. Hey, oblique strain. All right.
Who do you think you're going to trade Drew Waters for next offseason?
I don't know.
Pitcher with back problems?
Probably. If you can find one. Who out there has that, though? How many pitchers can you find with back injuries? By the way, when you go to DraftKings, this is going to be, I shouldn't even ask the question because you know the answer to it. Right now, the odds-on favorite, the betting favorite to lead the league in stolen bases this year?
Nobody cares.
Hey, hold on. I might care.
People are going to care.
I might care. Who's the odds-on favorite to lead the lead in stolen bases, Jason?
Adalberto Mondesi.
That...
Nobody cares.
Beards, I might...
I was shocked by that. I think people will care to hear that Right now at DraftKings at plus 500, the odds-on favorite, the betting favorite to win to lead the league in stolen bases is Adalberto Mondesi.
Is there a way that I could just take the field and maybe liquidate all of my assets?
I don't think
and just go ahead and roll the dice here.
I think Bobby Witt is like the 5th betting favorite.
Can this be my uncut gems moment where I just don't believe that will happen?
I mean, if he's healthy, he would lead the league in stolen bases. That much, I could say I feel pretty confident that if Adalberto Mondesi played like 130 and 140 games, he could have 75 stolen bases in a season.
I'm going to leave that for other people to bet on.
That's a big
personally.
I and a big F.
Yeah, it really is.
That's what that is.
It really is.
So, yes, I would not place a dime. I'm Jim Calhoun here, not a dime. You're the highest paid public employee in the state. Do you think maybe with the things going on in the state, you should give back some of that money? Not a dime. I ain't giving back a dime. I'm not putting a dime on Adalberto Mondesi.
I kind of now do want to put like a dime on it, but it will just be, it's going to be in my bet sheet for the entire baseball season.
So
just
5 to
taunting
1.
me. As,
Win 50
like, hey, you
cents.
tried to win 50 cents on this joke.
It's like,
Cash
boy,
out.
if you'd have put like $50 on it, you'd feel better about it right now because you get some money with this guy and his 120 stolen bases. That's odd. No, but I thought that was funny. Apropos of nothing that
Shocking.
we're really talking about when we'll talk with Todd. Maybe we'll only talk about that with Leabo at noon. Surprise! Who's the odds-on favorite?
Do the Red Sox actually have spring training in perhaps Hurt, Virginia, or why not North Carolina? 2 real places, by the way. I've gone to real cities now.
Stop me if you've heard this before, South Dakota.
Can't verify if that one's true, if that's a real city or not.
But is Hurt? Those are real.
Those
are
two
real
are
cities?
definitely real. Yeah, I'm on Babbel.com looking for funny places to put fictional spring training.
I wish there was a stop me if you've heard this before, but Mondesi is injured. No, he's not. Not yet.
It's a long city name.
Well, there are a lot of long city names.
Hey, Last Chance
A
Iowa.
little bit of a mouthful.
That would have been last year for Mondesi, was Last Chance Iowa. So, all right, 913-912-4810 is the text line. So we will talk with Todd Leabo coming up at noon, get his thoughts on some of the things going on out at spring training, the positional battles that are going on, the bullpen / who's going to start. There's some things that it's like, I'm intrigued by who's going to be in the starting rotation because that's kind of a big deal. Although early on in the season, you don't really need 5 because with so many built-in days off and things like that, you can typically get through a couple of rotation times through the rotation with only 4. The bullpen will be interesting. There's a few spots with that. But as I look at the roster, I think there's 2 spots open as positional players. That's kind of it. It's like all of the non-roster invitees, the guys that have played roles on the team. I feel like there's 2 spots open. I think there was only 1 until Drew Waters got injured, and now there's 2. So we'll talk with Todd Leabo about some of those things, who else he's talked to down there, some inclement weather going on in Arizona today. Mick Shaffer will be our guest coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. We'll have some shot clock reviews, we think. Maybe. We'll
Bring
see
him
what
back,
happens.
babe.
I
There's
don't
no
know.
sad fans. We'll see where Mick's at,
See what happens. There's no
How
sad
you guys
fans
feeling?
today. I was sad when I went through and erased that off the format today at
I know.
1:30. I erased sad fans. And I was like, oh, that's sad that I'm erasing sad fans. But I did tune in on Friday for the Eagles Super Bowl edition of Sad Fans. So I appreciated that. It was very good. It was
Sometimes we can
nice
jostle
conclusion.
Beards out of his slumber
That's right.
in non-football season.
That's right.
I'll just tell you, if the Suns get bounced early in the playoffs this year, you're going to get a new Sad Fans.
Oh, great.
If
Great.
the Celtics get bounced early, we won't get a new Sad Fans. It's just kind of up to
'Cause
Beards.
it's not going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely not.
Are there subreddits for college basketball teams?
There is a general college basketball subreddit
Okay.
that there's not really any specifically for teams. I've tried this before.
Dang.
I've looked before. There's only a giant generic one that is for everybody, and it doesn't work as well.
Because a few years ago with Virginia would have been a great Sad Fans as a 1-seed loser.
We might have done
created
something.
that on our own.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
We hated that Virginia team with the fire
Did
of
you
a
really?
thousand suns.
And
Oh,
so
yeah.
you loved that they ended up losing
Oh,
to
God.
UMBC.
It was erotic. We did some erotic radio.
Interesting. Did you like that the next year they won the national title?
No, not as much. Not as big of a fan of that. But oh man, that one seed Virginia team losing. I don't think Beards and I have ever been more aligned in our sports watching lives, and we've watched 2 Super Bowl championships together.
Virginia became the first ever team to lose to a 16 seed and then win the national title the next year.
It's a
Can you believe that?
It's unbelievable.
Nobody's ever done that
Can't
before.
believe nobody's ever done that before.
Ever. It's weird. K-State also became the first team to beat a 16 seed in the second round.
I mean, the history it's unbelievable.
It's unreal what took place
Also,
that year. First
disappointing for UMBC, the first 16 seed to lose in the second round. You hope to get further than that.
Yep, they joined every of the 16 seeds to not make it to the Sweet 16.
Right. Yeah. Disappointing.
But they are the first one to lose in the second round. There was a lot of firsts that took place that year and the next year.
I'm still getting up to speed with college basketball, especially on the national scale. The Big 12, I'm pretty soaked up in at this point.
Okay.
Can we root against Virginia for anything right now? What kind of rallying cry can we have against them?
Yeah, I mean, it's just your same old, Virginia.
Where are they at right now? 6th in the nation? Is that right? Oh yeah, we could pray on their downfall,
Yeah.
Beards. We're back.
hell yeah.
We're back. It's not as much fun if they're not top 10, and I couldn't remember where they stood. So if we can get them a 1 seed, that'd be great.
Well, they're near the top of the ACC. Last I checked,
Let's make
they
them
are
the
actually
first-
leading the ACC
Yeah,
right now.
good.
So
Let's get Virginia to be the first team to lose to 2 16
That's
seeds.
right. That's right.
well, they're not going to be a 1 seed.
No,
so,
we need them to be a 1 seed. We need some more people tripping up in front of them.
Yeah.
6th in the nation right now. They can get there, right? Come on. What's the rest of their schedule?
They could, but I think they'd have to move up 2 seed lines. So they'd have to win out and win the ACC
I'd like them to
tournament.
do that.
Have some teams in front of them that would lose. But here's the thing, though.
I could settle for a 215.
They kind of got screwed because that was not a real 16 seed. I mean,
Never
that
is.
was at worst a 15 seed.
Good,
that
'cause they weren't a
lost
real 1
to.
seed.
They were not. They were not. I like Tony Bennett though, so I've got a basketball card of Tony Bennett when he was with the Magic. I've got a Tony Bennett Orlando Magic basketball card.
I'm going to buy some Tony Bennett cards and then
That
make
I-
a small bonfire with him for what he did to the sport of basketball.
I found when I was going through, we were moving back, I was going through all my cards, and I was just like, all right, which ones are actually worth keeping? Like, trash, Tony Bennett. Whoa, hey!
Whoa, hey.
No, I'm going to keep this random Orlando Magic Tony Bennett card.
I don't like what he did to the sport of basketball, but I do have a soft spot for his music.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. All right, let's get into some college basketball. Winners last night, Mizzou and K-State. They both find ways to win at home. At times looked a little nip-tuck. Earlier in the game for K-State, looked like it was going to be more of a struggle, and Baylor playing against K-State the way they did the first half against Kansas, not necessarily the second half against Kansas. But then some of it kind of went the same way for Kansas State, and they get the win versus Baylor. I want to play Jerome Tang because this is something we've talked about before with Kansas State and turnovers and being able to eliminate those turnovers. Here's Jerome Tang last night after the game talking about that, his team with the assist to turnover ratio.
We've said all along that was our Achilles heel, and when both he and Keontae had 3 and he had 0, so that's 14 assists and 3 turnovers between the two guys that are going to have the ball in their hands the most, then that's really good. That gives you a chance, and if we don't turn the ball over, we're hard to beat.
And that is absolutely true because, it's obvious that you don't turn the ball over, you get more shots at the goal, you get more opportunities, which is opportunities for offensive rebounds, etc. Especially if there are some live ball turnovers that result in points the other way. So some of those are 4-point turnarounds or things like that. But he mentioned that Keontae Johnson only had 3 and Marquise Noel had 0. It's 14 assists to 3 turnovers with those guys. And when you go back to the second half against Iowa State, and to Jerome Tang's point, you go to the second half against Iowa State. So the last 3 halves of basketball, the last 60 minutes of basketball that K-State has played, they have been +8 in turnovers against their opposition. And they are +24 in points against Iowa State and against Baylor. 2 damn good teams. Home games, regardless, Iowa State and Baylor, 2 good teams. Baylor at halftime against Kansas was maybe the hottest team in the Big 12, one of the hottest teams in America. And then, KU just did what KU often does at Allen Fieldhouse, against good teams or not. And then Baylor heads to Kansas State, last night in Manhattan, and early on when they start knocking down shots and knocking down shots and knocking down shots, and it's like, okay, well, maybe the second half against KU was more of the aberration, and they're getting back to being a Baylor squad, and K-State then settles it down. stops turning the ball over and has 7 on the night and a total of 12 in 60 minutes of basketball, second half against Iowa State, and last night, total of 12 turnovers that they've had. And again, they're plus 24 in points. They have forced 20 turnovers from the opposition, and they've only turned it over 8 times. I mean, it seems like it's obvious for a lot of different teams, but for this K-State team, they have been able to overcome some turnover issues and still win some games. If they find a way, and I don't know that they're going to be a consistent team that's just not going to turn the ball over, because again, they're not Tony Bennett. They're not Virginia. They're not going to be they're not going to be that. They're going to get out and run. They're going to push the pace. And when you do that, and when the game's going a little bit quicker and you got more possessions, you might turn the ball over a little bit more. And so that's going to happen. But if they find ways to limit those in a game, play within yourself while also being able to maximize what you do. It's hard to do when you're talking about kids that are 18 to 22 years old, young adults. But it's a big if. If they can do that more consistently, this team is really hard to beat and will be a monster to deal with in the Big 12 tournament here at the T-Mobile Center, and will be a monster in the NCAA tournament to deal with if they can figure that part out, because they've got so many other elements to their game that continues to be something where they shoot themselves in the foot and sometimes can't get out of their own way. But credit to some defenses as well along the way with that.
This is just some math I was doing just to see what it would come out to.
I like math.
The state of Kansas versus Baylor in the second half.
Okay, yeah.
99-57.
Wow. Ooh.
Good work, state of Kansas. Sunflower State 99, Baylor 57.
Yeah, you're giving them their sunflowers.
Sure am.
Right now.
Smiling down.
On the air.
Just a wild.
Yeah.
Scott Drew has to be just that. That has to be a tough meeting room right now, man.
I mean, they were up. I mean, they were only up 3.
It was
last
the case.
night.
Yeah, last night was not nearly as big of a swing, but I talked about this plenty. I got my shots off on Monday because I was out there. It was the first time I'd been back in Allen Fieldhouse in a long while, and it'd been there for a full game, and. That second half of that game was like, oh, yeah, no, this still happens. There's something weird I can't totally put my finger on. That makes sense. Last night, I mean, you kind of laid it out, but it's Big 12 things happening in the greatest conference in college basketball, and it's these teams in particular realizing that they're in perfect playoff form because they've been playing the best all season long. Like, you have a pretty good grip on what these teams are. It's kind of cool.
Let's take a timeout. We'll come back. I want to talk a little bit about, the Big 12 Coach of the Year. That discussion took place this morning with Greg Gurley and the boys on the Border Patrol, and also get into Mizzou's win last night against Mississippi State. For the first time since 2018, they've beaten Mississippi State in basketball. I mean, my nephew texted it last night. He's like, man, I can't believe it's been that long since they beat Mississippi State. I'm like, how long has it been? I didn't see the stat. I didn't see what they put up there on the graphic after the game was over. But it feels like they lose to them a lot. He's like, it's 2018. I'm like, good night. I mean, you should be better than Mississippi State. You should be, but there's a lot of things that should happen in life. And they find a way to get that win last night, does Mizzou, in a game that I didn't really feel like they were going to win. I thought that game was going to be 6-7 point spread. They were going to lose that game and go, man, you are sliding back in conference and you're not really threatening to not have a bye, but you're sliding back in seed line too, and you're looking at 9, 10 seed in the SEC tournament and also, the NCAA tournament as well. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. You're in the zone with Jason Anderson.
He's a good guy to hang out with. He's a good guy to work with. He's a good guy to confide in. He's got the characteristics of what you would hope that your best friend or a brother would have. And he's tough.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Todd Leabo coming up at noon. Mick Shaffer at 1 o'clock. 913-381-810. Text says there's a truth or consequence, New Mexico.
I saw that one on my list. I love that.
Yes, but doubt there's a spring training there. There's a couple of other town names that I'm not going to read.
Yeah, some of these are tough for the radio.
Text says, welcome back, Jason. Nobody happy you're back. Then Mitch Holtis. Oh, my God. I mean, that's
Jeez,
unbelievable.
Man, you just got here.
Wow.
I can't believe Beards texted that.
Text says, surprise, no spring training developments today.
Yet.
Text says, K-State won't be a factor anywhere on the road. They have 3 wins all season in true road games. Well, luckily for them, the NCAA tournament and the Big 12 tournament is not played in true road games.
Yeah.
So they lucked out there this year.
Things worked out, I guess.
They have decided not to play home sites of the teams only K-State is playing.
I believe if you win all your home and neutral site games, I believe you'll win the NCAA championship. So
that's true.
Maybe they know what they're doing, a long con.
That's exactly right. Unless you make the NIT.
Yeah, it's like
because if you're not, I guess postseason ban, you'd be out of the NIT as well. So,
right.
If you lose every single road game,
it could be tough.
And your home games are against really awful competition, and like, yeah, you didn't play anybody, and you lost every other road game. Sorry, you're not in the tournament. Then you would not advance very far because eventually you'd have to play on somebody unless you're a 1 seed in the NIT. And now we're just getting into the weeds here with that. Oh, my goodness. Mizzou wins last night, and it was a big one because they're now tied for 7th in the SEC. So sitting there with Mississippi State and a couple of other schools, you don't want to drop to 11, 12, 13, 14, obviously, because then you don't even have a bye, let alone a double bye. That would necessitate an entire gun rack. I don't even have a gun. It would be great for them. It'd be advantageous for them if they finish 6th, because if they're 6th, which is very doable, if they finish 6th, they get the 3 seed in the second round and then the 2 seed in the semifinals, as opposed to having to play Alabama at all. And they've knocked off Kentucky, who's the 3 seed right now. All they would need to finish 6th is to win out, which is very doable because they have 3 very winnable games. Vandy needs to lose 1, which will happen, and then Arkansas lose 1, which should happen because they play Auburn and Tennessee both in their final 3/4 games. So if that were to happen, Mizzou finished 6th, which would be great. They'd play the winner of the 11-14 game, and then they would play Kentucky, the 3 seed, on that, what would be Friday night. That'd be the late game on Friday in the SEC tournament. So it was a big win last night, and a win that I just did not think they would get. Dennis Gates talked about it and said he was asked about could they have won in regulation last night.
What we wanted to do, and I'll give you guys this, I thought we were going to foul up 2. We wanted the last possession. And I told Kobe to make sure he fouled Tolu in that situation so we can come down and do what we needed to do, is just playing the analytics. And sometimes you have to play analytics. I did not want them to have the last possession. I wanted us to have it. So that foul was pretty much on time. They got deep post position. I said, Kobe, make sure you foul them. We could have easily just let them go, but that was by design, okay? Now, once you play analytics, you have to understand, you have to execute. I thought we had some looks. The ball went out of bounds. Once that ball went out of bounds, and Kobe hurts. I thought, and I challenged him, you cannot come over to the sideline, put your head down, okay? He was disappointed that he missed that baseline out of bounds layup. We gave them a different look. We knew that we had to extend them, offset their shell, so we put everybody on the far right wing. And that allowed a corner catch, that allowed an underneath basket, and we shifted them in an alignment that they've never seen. Kobe missed a layup, but how our players responded when he was down and out He put both elbows on his knees, and literally his head was down. That's discouragement, right? That's a guy that wants to win so bad that, you know, it hurts. But the way these guys responded, top to bottom, they lifted his spirits, and we were able to then get out of that overtime and respond in a certain way.
There were so many opportunities for Mizzou to lose last night that it would have been just expected if they lost that game. You know, Mo Diarra fouls out, and it's interesting he talked about that they fouled on purpose at the end of regulation with about 8 seconds left because they wanted the ball back. Even though they were up by 2, they were leading by 2, they wanted to get the final shot. It's really interesting to foul because then you're giving the other team an opportunity to tie it from the free throw line instead of just simply playing defense. So his point being, you know, analytics, we wanted the final shot, so we wanted to foul. So they foul. Tolu Smith hits both of them. The first one hit every part of the rim and the backboard and went in. The second one was a little more pure. And then they've got a layup. And Kobe Brown probably makes the next 19 of those. And he's 19 of 20 on those layups. He wasn't fouled. He got the ball. He goes up. He rises. Lay it off the backboard and goes in. And it just missed. Just missed. And that's not something that Kobe, once he rose up, I'm like, they won. They just won the game. And then they missed it. And I thought they just lost the game because they missed it. And they're down by 2. They come out of a timeout. And Noah Carter was not what the play was set up for. It was set up for Hodge. They couldn't get him open because it was great defense. So Noah Carter steps out behind the arc, who hit a couple threes last night and broke his, you know, what was a rough slump from 3. And he knocks in a 24-footer. He knocks in the 3 to give him the 1-point lead. And then in what is, you know, essentially Missouri fashion, Deshaun Davis loses the ball in the lane. Missouri's about to secure it with like 4 seconds left or whatever. Well, no, it was more than that because Missouri had time to run down and, and shoot that 3. So it was probably like 15, 20 seconds left. Loses the ball in the lane. It bounces off a Missouri player, bounces back to Davis, who then just tosses it up in the air on a floater, and it ends up going in. And you're like, okay, well, that's how they're going to lose. They're going to lose by 1 on that one. And then Nick Honor with a step-back 3.
Who didn't see that coming? I mean, that's what they drew up, right?
Called it.
Yeah.
Step-back 3, Nick Honor to knock it home. So you had the last 6 points scored by Noah Carter and Nick Honor, 2 guys that had been in shooting slumps for a pretty extended amount of time. Like, those were guys that when Missouri's going well, they got a lot of guys that can knock down threes. Right. Carter, Nick Honor, 2 of those guys. And they both broke out of that shooting slump by hitting a couple of threes in that game before they, you know, made those last shots. But you've got Kobe Brown misses a layup. You've got a wild floater that was bouncing around in the lane that's made by Mississippi State. And you've got Noah Carter and Nick Honor that take the last 2 shots from 3 for Mizzou. One of them was not the play call in Noah Carter hitting the 3. And the other one was a step-back 3 by Nick Honor. And they found a way to win that game. And it was huge. And Dennis Gates talked about it after the game of what the win means for this Missouri squad to find a way to get that one against Mississippi State.
My purpose and my aim is to try to deliver the best program that we possibly can with our staff, with our players, with our administration, and with our student body and community. I think that's what allowed us to win tonight. It was a game that had remnants of March. It was a game that I thought had minimal runs, which is seen in conference tournaments. That was a conference tournament game and a conference tournament field. I thought the first half we dug ourselves a hole, and when I say hole, we were down 3 points because we made mistakes and we gave up 5 points in the last couple seconds. And we can't put ourselves in that situation, especially with a game where you only saw a team with a 6-point lead and a team with a 4-point lead the entire way. But our guys regrouped. They challenged each other. And I'll tell you one thing, Nick Honor may not have been shooting the ball the way I know he has, but I know what has been taking place behind the scenes. And he's never stopped putting in the work. I want him to shoot more. I need him to be a little bit more selfish. I yelled, shoot it, and he shot it. So I'm glad you listened to me. I'm glad you listened to yourself.
He really yelled, shoot it to Nick Honor on a step back three?
I didn't.
I did not do that as well. By the way, I should also point out a couple of texts have come in and said, Missouri finishing sixth. What about them getting the double bye? They are one game out of the number 4 seed in the SEC tournament, which is crazy to think about. They would need Auburn to lose twice because Auburn has the tiebreaker over them and they've got a 1-game lead on them. So they would need Auburn to lose twice. They would need, at that point, Tennessee to lose once and Kentucky to lose twice. So they need 2 of those 3 to happen. They need Tennessee to lose. Missouri needs to win out. And if Tennessee loses once and Kentucky loses twice, Auburn loses twice, 2 of those 3 things to happen. Because I'm assuming Vanderbilt's going to lose 1 more in their final 4 games. And if they do, then Missouri has the tiebreaker over them, would have the tiebreaker over Kentucky and Tennessee. They would not have the tiebreaker over Auburn. That is a way for them to finish 4th. There's a lot of things to happen over these last 3 games. They have to win their own 3 games first and foremost, 2 of those being on the road.
And then remind me, where does Ryan Fitzpatrick come in? Because I know he's involved somewhere in the seeding. He's got to be some element of it.
Somewhere, some way, he will be involved.
Playing for who now?
He will be involved somewhere. Let's take a time out. I want to talk about Coach of the Year. The conversation that was being had by Greg Gurley and Nate and Steven, along with Greg texting Fran Fraschilla last night during the K-State game. Interesting. Because I find it odd, like the conversation this year. It's not surprising. It's a little odd. And then also SEC Coach of the Year, National Coach of the Year, and did a press conference yesterday eliminate a coach that was talked about being one of the favorites to win that? We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, explain that next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Briscoe, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Just right on the verge of nailing it.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll talk with Todd Leabo coming up at noon. We'll get into some NFL, some baseball in the 11 o'clock hour. Certainly baseball with Todd in the noon hour as well. 913-912-4810. The Big 12 Coach of the Year conversation that's going on. And Fran Fraschilla had TJ Otzelberger, Jerome Tang, and I believe Rodney Terry were the three coaches that were his Big 12 Coach of the Year finalists, that the winner will come from that group, which, I'm fine with. We can get into the conversation about, does it go to the best team? Does it go to the best coach? Does it go to the coach that has exceeded what our expectations were? And certainly Otzelberger and Jerome Tang would be that. Now, Rodney Terry would definitely be that, because if Rodney Terry were the head coach of Texas before the preseason rankings came out in the Big 12 back in, October, would they have finished third in the rankings? I don't know. I don't know if they would have finished third in the rankings.
A degree of difficulty there.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm cool with getting rewarded.
Absolutely.
In these conversations.
They're tied for first right now with Kansas, tiebreaker and all that stuff. But they're tied for first with Kansas, both sitting at 11-4. They were picked third, so tied for first. They're actually better than what they were. But I think a lot of people would be surprised when we get into these Big 12 Coach of the Year conversations and we go, well, yeah, but Bill Self isn't going to win it because they're always, near the top and finishing first or second. And so Bill Self isn't going to get it at that point. But that's not really what's happened in the Big 12 the last 3 years. I mean, Big 12, Bill Self has 6 Big 12 Coach of the Year
6
awards. But in 2020, Scott Drew won his first Big 12 Coach of the Year award.
For the 2019-20 season.
Yes, exactly.
So the award after the 20.
Yep. So the 2020. I like
just
going
for
by
bookkeeping.
I like going by college basketball. The year that the tournament played is really the only year that I say.
I think that works.
So the 2020 season, Scott Drew won the award. They were picked to finish second. They finished second that year. They were a damn fine team. KU was going to be the overall number 1. Baylor might have been the overall number 2. Tournament got canceled. Rest history, but Scott Drew won the Big 12 Coach of the Year. The next year, Scott Drew won Big 12 Coach of the Year. They were picked preseason to finish first, and they finished 0 above. They finished first, exactly where they were picked. And last year, Scott Drew won his 3rd Big 12 Coach of the Year award in a row. They were picked to finish 3rd in the preseason. They finished 1st last year. So of the 3 years that Scott Drew has won in a row, only one of those years did he finish higher than what he was projected to finish. So we can talk about, well, the only coach that wins the Coach of the Year in these conferences are the ones that are outplaying what our expectations were, and they're better than what we thought, that because we could not have been wrong. It had to be that they are coaching much better than we expected them to coach. Iowa State right now is 5th. They were picked 8th. Kansas State is 4th. They were picked 10th. Okay, so that's legit. Like, if Jerome Tang wins the Big 12 Coach of the Year, that is not well, it's only because of they picked him to finish 10th and they finished, 6th or whatever. No, Jerome Tang legitimately can win Big 12 Coach of the Year. But it is surprising, though, that we talk about, well, Bill Self isn't even going to be one of these coaches that's listed. Like the Naismith National Coach of the Year watch list, there are 3 coaches from the Big 12 on that watch list. Otzelberger, Jerome Tang, and Rodney Terry. Not Bill Self. Someone who lost so much of his team a year ago that won a national title, the team they played in the tournament, in the national championship game, right now would be lucky to be in the tournament. And they returned to everybody but Manic? If not, maybe somebody else, but the bulk of that team is returned, and the bulk of KU is lost, and they're sitting here as a top 10 team, as a 1 seed, 23 wins already, 11-4 in conference, and it's like, yeah, but that's sort of expected. Well, it was expected with Scott Drew as well.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Very.
Because we kind of dismiss Bill Self because, well, he's supposed to be there. But yet Scott Drew's 3 in a row being where essentially he was supposed to be.
I do still think it is Bill Self being a victim of his own success, because you comparing it to Scott Drew's current three-peat is definitely fair, but it is glossing over the fact that Bill Self is expected to be better than the best other dude currently in the conference.
Yeah.
Like, there's a whole extra gear there that very, very few coaches, the Hall of Fame coaches, occasionally end up having connected to him. We talked about this quite a bit with Myron Metcalf yesterday, and the idea that Kansas has maintained this, like, perfectly Kansas culture over the entire Bill Self era makes their success predictable and boring if you're not really looking at the details, right? And this year, the details of this version of this KU team is fascinating and absolutely would put Bill Self, if it was any other head coach, or God forbid it was somebody else taking over the KU program and everything else was exactly the same, but it was a promotion from within, somebody, whatever the reason would have been.
Bill Self has a year-long suspension and Norm Roberts has taken over. And
Norm
now
Roberts
it
would be over. The conversation would be over. Like, you wouldn't even have to have that debate. So yeah, it is funny to me that it is really hard to compare Bill Self even to a guy like Scott Drew, who is an excellent coach, who's won this award 3 times in a row, with all of the caveats that you very fairly applied, and still Scott Drew isn't actually Bill Self's peer because he is very close to peerless.
Yeah. My fun ACC stat that I like to use when it comes to Coach of the Year, Coach K's last Conference Coach of the Year award was in 2000. Duke won the ACC 5 times from 2000 until last year. Now, this is the first year that Coach K is not coaching, is this year.
Right.
So his last Coach of the Year in the ACC was 2000. In that time, Seth Greenberg has 2 ACC Coach of the Year awards. He hasn't coached in a long time. Seth Greenberg has 2. Jim Larrañaga has 2. Leonard Hamilton has 3. And your boy Tony Bennett has 4.
That right
Since
there's a real
Coach
shame.
K's last ACC Coach of the Year award in 2000. They have found somebody else besides Coach K for 22 years, including Seth Greenberg twice, and they never won the conference. Seth Greenberg never won the conference at NC State, but they gave it to him twice. I mean, Leonard Hamilton's got 3, and they've won the conference once.
Maybe we can take Tony Bennett's awards and just give them to Bill Self, just to help balance some things out.
Well, at least Virginia's won the conference 5 times with Tony Bennett as the coach. Like, if he's got 4 and they've won it 5 times, all right.
Sure, the math plays. You're
more
right,
understandable.
Sure, absolutely.
But Greenberg and Leonard Hamilton having 5 and combined winning the conference once, that's the let's find somebody else to give the award. At least the Big 12 seems more in line with, this is the best team. This coach has done the best job. I don't care what we picked him. We're going to go with that guy. Except this year, no Bill Self. It's interesting.
You're in the zone.
And there are guys you feel like are going to be. Are there guys you...
With Jason Anderson.
Boy, that's an unfortunate slip up.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
We'll talk with Todd Leabo coming up an hour from now. Mick Shaffer coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. 913-912-4810. Text says, if Bill Self is peerless, then what should his salary be? I guess what I'm saying is, what is the peerless price? I mean, I've really enjoyed that dismount. I didn't know where he was going with it. I thought maybe he was just simply saying, he deserves more money or... But to get to the peerless price, don't even care about what the money is. Text says being 85% of Coach Self makes you Big 12 Coach of the Year. Could be, yeah. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. We will talk a lot of Royals today with Todd Leabo, Mick Shaffer, at different points in the show as well. Talked a lot of college basketball there in the first hour with Mizzou and K-State winning last night, KU winning on Monday night, Big 12 Coach of the Year conversations that are there. I did want to bring up one other point, and then we'll get into some NFL football with A.J. Brown and him talking about the Chiefs were interested in trading for him. So that is obviously an interesting jumping off point for a conversation around the Chiefs and draft, free agency, etc. But we talked about the Naismith National Coach of the Year watch list, that there are 3 Big 12 coaches on that, TJ Otzelberger, Jerome Tang, and Rodney Terry. There are only 2 SEC coaches on that. Now, mind you, if you're a top 10 finalist that they released a few days ago, you can still win the Coach of the Year. It's just kind of, this is really who they've come. If you're not in the top 10, it'd be hard for you to win the Coach of the Year. But the 2 SEC coaches are Dennis Gates and Nate Oates. And I'm wondering if yesterday's press conference sort of eliminated Nate Oates from the conversation about being National Coach of the Year when he has that press conference and they've known about the details that were going to come out yesterday. They've known about it for a while. He's had ample opportunity to prepare for what he was going to say about that. And to then act like it was just, it's just one of those things. It's kind of...
wrong place, wrong time?
Wrong place, wrong time for my player who drove the weapon that was used to murder somebody and whose car has bullet holes in it. He was just in the wrong place, wrong time. You mean when he drove to the wrong place at the wrong time? When his teammate said, I need my thing. So go and whatever it was that he used. So he brings his gun and drives it there. It's about a 10-minute drive. Not a 10-minute walk, not just around the corner. It's a 10-minute drive to get from the apartments where they live to where that took place. That is not wrong place, wrong time. And you've got somebody that was involved in that. Now, the police say he is not being charged with a crime. Nate Oates said that he has done nothing wrong. And maybe in his mind, and maybe that's reality that he, in his mind didn't do anything wrong. It might have been that, Miles was like, look, man, we're in danger. We're in danger and we need this here. Well, then call the police if you're in that much danger. But you drove it to them. That was then used in a shootout that killed a young mother. And you knew that car had bullet holes in it. You knew he was there. You knew he was part. You had 2 other players that were there at the scene that drove there to the scene. And then they go back to their apartment, call the police and say, This person's been shot. We don't know how he was shot. He tells the police, I was so drunk, I don't know how I was shot. Brandon Miller telling the police, I don't know how he was shot. We have no idea. We have no clue. Now, they're clearly not charging him with a crime of lying or misleading the police in the investigation. They've moved on from that because they have 2 capital murder charges. Bigger fish to fry. Find the mountains, not the moles, and go about it that way. But there has been, and I don't know what the right discipline would be. No idea. Maybe there's things behind the scenes, but it just kind of felt like it was dismissive of the whole thing of like, well, it's tough. It's unfortunate. He's not in trouble with the police. He's not in trouble with us. Just one of those wrong place, wrong time situations. If he was there and shots rang out, that's wrong place, wrong time. He drove to the place, which by bringing that created the wrong place, wrong time. He has since clarified, has Nate Oates in a statement last night, which, I get it, but he's had so much time. They've known the details of this for a while, that it was going to come out. I don't know that this derails the season for Alabama or anything like that, because they've been this good with what has already taken place with that situation, where you're talking about a former teammate that's facing capital murder and 2 other teammates that were there. You've been able to move past that and keep everything together. I don't know that this derails the season or anything, but it certainly gives a different look of Nate Oates in behind the scenes in the Bama program.
One of the final parts of the additional statement that he released, it says, "In no way did I intend to downplay the seriousness of this situation or the tragedy of that night." And the necessity of that part of the statement does a pretty good job of at least maybe him realizing, or maybe someone telling him, hey man, it sounds pretty directly like you are downplaying the seriousness of the situation and the tragedy of that night. And I understand that it's so deeply encoded into coaching, into teams, into sports altogether, this sort of just like focused on the goal, nose to the grindstone, next man up, we can only control what we control type of thing. But that's why it's important to have people, and I don't know Nate Oates, I don't even know this story well enough to be able to make passing judgments on him. So this is, speaking in generalities out of the specifics of the story, but it's really important to have people in charge who don't, even by accident, downplay a murder because you're trying to make sure that everyone knows, hey, our guy here's all right, and we're just sticking to the game plan. We're all about who we've got next on our schedule and getting ready for March Madness. Things will happen in and around your team, your franchise, your family, your players, where you have to be able to rise to the moment, specifically in a college sport like college basketball in particular, where you are literally the adult in the room. Like, you are the face and name of your program. There are not stars bigger than the coaches in college basketball. You might get a blip of Zion for a year, but it's still Coach K's Duke team, right? Like, there is not really a hierarchy where the head coach can be anything other than the guy setting the tone. So making sure that you get the tone correct in your press conferences at times when it's not just about basketball is really important. And I think that's something that gets overlooked in terms of who the leaders in sports are.
There's a way to compartmentalize everything. Like, the biggest part is the tragedy of somebody that lost their life, of somebody that was a young mother and was in wrong place, wrong time. They were parked, with their flashers on. According to the story, they were eating. And then, not the Alabama player, I forget the other guy's name, obviously not Brandon Miller, but the person who, pulled the trigger, walks up behind them, walks to the side of the Jeep, and then an altercation takes place, and then shots are fired. And the young mother sitting in the passenger seat, stray bullet. That's wrong place, wrong time. If you're sitting there eating food and something like that happens, that's the biggest part. But as far as like the basketball side of it, and as far as like Nate Oates as the head coach, your player had a role in somebody losing their life.
That's right.
Unnecessarily, senselessly losing their life. He transported the weapon to that location. They did not have a gun. Their gun was a 10-minute drive away, and Brandon Miller brought that gun. If there was so much danger that those guys were in, call the police. Now,
or leave.
Now, mind you, leave. Because here's the thing. Let me just state. There's a difference in me being a white guy calling the police and 21, 22-year-old black males calling the police.
Yep.
Regardless, you're right. Leave. That's a better. Probably not. Don't call the police. Said that twice. Let me retract. There's the there's the
some complicating factors there. That
no doubt.
tough.
There's the privilege that comes along with that. Yeah. That I'll check at the door. So leave the situation at that point. But he did bring that to that location. And he was there when it took place because he drove that there in his car, and then his car had bullet holes in it. And then they drove back to the apartments. Again, that's 10, 15-minute drive to get there. So that's the basketball side of it, of that senseless act. Like, you could sit there at the podium, again, having a lot of time to prepare for this, of he understands the role that he played. Did he do anything that was illegal under the law? The cops are saying no. Did he make a poor choice that night? He knows he did. We've talked about it. We've discussed it. He's had to sit, think, pray on it, what has happened with that situation. But there's no getting around the role that he played in that. And the whole thing is unfortunate. He didn't start the thing. Who knows? There are differing stories. Prosecution, defense have differing stories about how it started, what happened, who escalated it, who shot first. All of those things are going to be discussed in court. If it goes to the grand jury or not, probably will. All of those things are going to be discussed and figured out what is in the view of the facts of the case or what you can prove in court. But it was a bad look for Alabama, and it was a bad look for Nate Oates, and it's a bad look overall for the program when you've got three players that are there, three players that are members of that had some role in some way. None of them pulled the trigger. None of them were the ones that committed the act. Mm-hmm. But they did play a role in that. So I don't know that eliminates him from National Coach of the Year, but I do wonder how many votes he would get. Even if it was like, I think he's my Coach of the Year of what Alabama's done. You know what? I can make a strong case for this guy over here. Mm-hmm. And so I'm probably going to give it to that guy over there who hasn't had that situation, that he's had to then go and release a statement. And you're absolutely right. That part about it at the end, when he says, I did not mean to downplay the seriousness of that, which is an indication of how it was received, and him not presenting his words in a way or getting his words across in a way that is his responsibility, not, well, it was received differently than I thought it was going to be received. Well, that's on you. Just as our conversation here, received differently than I thought, well, that's my responsibility to do that.
There's a difference between having a offhanded comment about one of your players that lands strange amongst the media that you clarify later on, you know, and again, being the face and the voice of a program in a moment like this and missing the mark.
Yep, absolutely. 913-912-4810. Let's talk some NFL football. An interesting thing that came out yesterday was A.J. Brown, and, a big part of that Super Bowl now, week and a half ago. But A.J. Brown was talking about the trade. He went into like 10 minutes of details of how the whole thing happened with Tennessee. He was promised that he wasn't going to be traded. Mike Vrabel called him and said, hey, how are you doing with your name being brought up in all these trade discussions? And he goes, well, I'm not used to it, so it's not easy to deal with. And Mike Vrabel, according to A.J. Brown, said, don't worry about it. It's all BS. We ain't trading you. At some point, that switched. Mm-hmm. That obviously changed along the way. And again, if you want to hear all the details from A.J. Brown, he goes into it like 10, 15 minutes long, that he talks about some of those particulars. Conversations with Jalen Hurts, conversations with Mike Vrabel, conversations with other members of the Tennessee Titans, things like that. But in that, he discusses teams that were interested. So here's that clip of A.J. Brown talking about as this thing was getting closer to being done.
Probably like an hour later, my agent called me. He was like, "Hey, like Philly finna try to like really push for you. They trying to push for you, whatever." I began a couple of teams, like the Chiefs tried to get me, a couple other teams like Jets and all that other stuff, but Philly making a strong push. Like, we gonna see what happens. I'm like, all right. I'm like, but you know what I want to do. I'm telling him, like, you know what I want to do.
Stay in Tennessee. Get paid. Get paid in Tennessee. That's what I want to do. Eagles are interested. Chiefs made a push. Jets made a push to go and grab him. I know my reaction when I heard that. What was your reaction when you heard that?
A cartoonish, and then Beards' reaction was, I think it was, gosh darn it, because Beards has been on this trade for DK Metcalf train since the moment they traded away Tyreek Hill. Look, I think the Chiefs should be on the phone when any wide receiver appears to be on the block that way, maybe even before they end up being out there. But I was surprised. I was surprised that he's one of the teams who, that the Chiefs were one of the teams that A.J. Brown mentioned as what appeared to be serious pushers for his services.
My first thought was, so the Chiefs did want a high-end, true number one receiver. They did not go into the season going, Juju, MVS, McCole. At that point, they didn't have Sky.
Right.
Whoever they may draft, that's good to go. We're good with those guys. Now, we know they tried to get Kadarius Toney. Was that after the draft? Like that whole thing, was it before? Was it after? There's a timeline that maybe 10 years from now might be talked about of, well, here are the details. These are the conversations when we were trading Tyreek Hill. Then we were reaching out to Tennessee and we were inquiring about trading for A.J. Brown and what it would take if we're trading we're trading Tyreek Hill. We're getting a first and a second. And can we give up a second for A.J. Brown? Therefore, we got a first rounder from Tyreek Hill and we're paying less money. So we go Tyreek to A.J. Brown, a first rounder, and pay him less money. Boy, that would be a great exchange. The Chiefs would be, Veach would be GM of the year if he could do that. Well, we know that it took, obviously, a top 20 pick. What was Treylon Burks, number 17?
It was 18 and 101.
18. So it took a first and a third to get A.J. Brown. And then the Tennessee Titans take a wide receiver in Burks. And so my initial reaction was they were interested in trading for A.J. Brown, which meant they were going to pay him and give up a draft pick for him. That was really surprising.
Yeah.
Now, maybe they kicked the tires,
right?
But even if they kicked the tires, he mentions 3 teams only that were interested in coming at him.
The team he went to, the team who also tried to trade for Tyreek Hill and couldn't, and the team that traded away Tyreek Hill.
And then traded for Kadarius Toney. And then we know was interested in Kadarius Toney earlier this year. So it makes sense. It's not a out of nowhere. Well, the Raiders were also interested after they traded for Devontae Adams. Well, they didn't have the money. Doesn't make sense. Well, they were just kicking the tires. How much would it cost for us to sign A.J. Brown? Oh, we can't get him for $5 million? Okay, great. Thanks. We just wanted to check. Doing our due diligence. Like, they knew that it was going to take, a decent amount of money. 4 years, $100 million is what A.J. Brown signed for. 57.2 guaranteed. Cap hits of 5.6, 8.3, 28 million, 23 million, 38 million. Now, that last one you can get out of because you would essentially save about $30 million against the cap. That's in 2026. He would be 29 years old at that time, and he'd probably be okay with getting out of that and going and re-signing a new big contract as a 29-year-old that doesn't have a 3. That's a part of his name as the first number that's there. But I was shocked that the Chiefs were interested in that because I really thought the second they traded Tyreek Hill, their game plan at that point was, we've got to get better everywhere.
Yeah.
Depth, younger, cheaper. That's the game plan now moving forward.
Because that's worked so well for the Packers.
But you didn't know how it was going to work for the
Packers.
Packers.
Is so afraid of Patrick Mahomes becoming Aaron Rodgers, and not even for all the modern reasons.
Well, we know he can't become Aaron Rodgers because he already has 2
rings already. It's a great point.
And Rodgers is sitting with the solo ring. 1
And Mahomes
is
can
the
see the
loneliest
sun
number.
currently, so that's probably also different. I think
That's exactly right. He's not in a dark room sleeping.
Not in a cave right now. No. I wonder where, and this is something that Brett Veach is going to hopefully get asked about at the Combine very shortly. At the time you can get some availability from GMs
next week.
I wonder what is going to end up being the thing that seems like what priced the Chiefs out. Because all of the money you've mentioned, but also let me just throw some of the things at you in terms of the draft capital.
Yeah.
So that the Eagles had that 18th overall pick and then the 101st overall pick. Now the Chiefs ended up spending 21 overall on Trent McDuffie, but they didn't have that pick originally. So to go get Trent McDuffie, it was 21 overall. Or they got 21 overall for 29 overall, a 2022 third-round pick that weirdly was traded again and turned into Matt Corral, by the way. I hadn't rechecked that trade chart in a minute. And a fourth-round pick last year, 121 overall. So it is a 1, 3, and 4 just to get to 21, which was still 3 spots behind the pick that they ended up sending over. So that would be Trent McDuffie plus something plus Leo Chanel. He was 103. Now, in a contractless vacuum, would you rather who makes a bigger impact? Trent McDuffie, who was excellent this year, and Leo Chanel, who seems like a real part of the future and was excellent in the Super Bowl, or A.J. Brown. Hey, look, we don't like A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is a tremendous football player. But to your point, again, they would have to. It might have been Leo Chanel and Joshua Williams. That was pick 135, or maybe Brian Cook at 62. You can go Cook and McDuffie, and make that jump work, I guess.
To extend that out, to game it out, if you do that, then we exchange Sky Moore with somebody else. Because they don't take Sky Moore in the second round if they traded for A.J. Brown. So do they take
So can you make
not necessarily Joshua Williams, but another cornerback in the second round? And it's not Trent McDuffie, but
maybe it's just it's Trent McDuffie and Sky Moore, because then it's a receiver out and receiver in, and it's where that pick was.
Trent McDuffie and Sky Moore for A.J. Brown.
Right. That basically, and I'll tell you what. And again, A.J. Brown, the reason that he becomes a tradable asset is because of the finances, because it is paying twice, which is something we've talked about a number of times now. But it is a fascinating little pocket there. Also, remembering where we were, a week or two ago, when that story came out that said that the Chiefs preferred Miami's offer to the Jets' offer for Tyreek Hill, the Jets would have given them number 10 overall, right? That would have gotten it done
The Jets weren't giving him a first-rounder.
No. The recent story was that the Chiefs preferred the Dolphins' offer
but the Jets
the Jets.
But the Jets never
Garrett
had the
Wilson
first rounder,
pick.
though, right? I don't think the Jets ever offered the first rounder. It was
I'll go find where this. I don't know if this ever got to the final
Yeah.
offer, but it was what the Chiefs had preferred.
Because it was 2 seconds. It was more picks. It wasn't a first rounder, number 29, that they were getting from Miami, but they felt there was more value in getting 2 seconds and a couple of other picks as opposed to the first rounder, which was the big headliner, along with the number 50 pick.
So this is Albert Breer's story, February, or actually, I think it was a Breer report, February 6th, before Super Bowl week. Said originally the Jets offered the Chiefs the 10th pick in the 2022 NFL draft straight up for Hill, but Kansas City wanted more picks, and Hill wanted to go to Miami. So the Chiefs ended up preferring the Dolphins package there. If the Jets would have sent number 10 to the Chiefs for Tyreek Hill, they could have sent number 10 right back to the Titans for A.J. Brown. We could have gotten very close to a player-for-player A.J. Brown for Tyreek Hill trade. That would have been really something. And then, obviously, all the picks the Chiefs get in return for Tyreek Hill don't turn into players who played really huge roles in their Super Bowl win and everything in that campaign leading up to it. So many sliding doors.
That is interesting.
I love these sliding doors.
That is interesting.
Hypotheticals for months.
Because number 18 and 101, number 10 is more valuable than number 18 and 101.
Yep.
It's also interesting that if you look at the 2 contracts that were signed with A.J. Brown and Tyreek Hill, the Tyreek Hill in 2023 and 2024, the combined cap hit is $56 million. So figure that out one way or another, but you got to pay $56 million the next 2 years for Tyreek Hill and a cap hit. That's just how Miami structured it. Whatever. A.J. Brown combined cap hit over the next 2 years is $36 million. It's $20 million less. So would you have been able to trade number 10 and move that to Philadelphia for A.J. Brown, that the cap hit this last year between A.J. Brown and Tyreek Hill was kind of negligible? But the next 2 years, 23 and 24, when it starts to escalate, it's $20 less million against the cap. The next element to this is if they wanted A.J. Brown, if they're sitting there at 31, I mean, clearly wide receiver is on the docket. Maybe not where they go, but to act like, well, at 31, you got to go defensive end, or you go tackle, you go another spot. Well, they wanted A.J. Brown. And they were willing to pay twice, which is what they did for Frank Clark and Orlando Brown. Brett Veach does not mind doing that. Does not mind paying twice for a player that he feels like is a known commodity. You don't know what you're going to get in a first rounder, but you have a pretty good idea what you're going to get for $25 million a year for 4 years for A.J. Brown. And if you were to get Tyreek Hill traded straight up for A.J. Brown, but a cheaper receiver against the cap, would it be worth it as opposed to keeping Tyreek Hill, as opposed to the package that they got with pick number 29 and 50 and the other picks along with it?
Also, A.J. Brown was just turned 25 at the start of the year.
Right, yeah. Yep, he's this was his 25-year-old season, 26-year-old season next year. So he'll be 26, 27 years old. You can get out of that before the 2025 season, so you've got him for really 3 years. But you only save $7 million against the cap. It would be $15.5 million dead cap hit. So you're not getting out of that. So you're going to have him for 4 years, 2022, 23, 24, and 25. And then that 2026 season, you're probably getting out of it at that point because it's $8.7 million dead cap hit and a $38 million, cap hit. So you're saving, a little less than $30 million if you were to move on from him. He's 29, or you extend him. Or you figure out what the finances are then, what the salary cap is in 2026, what the salary cap is expected to be in 27 and 28, prorating, things like that, looking at Patrick Mahomes' contract. At that point, you won't have Kelsey, or I shouldn't say you won't. You might have a shell of what Kelsey looks like right now if you've got 3 more seasons of Travis Kelsey playing 16, 17 games. I mean, that Chiefs 49ers Super Bowl was on the other night. And I had it on in the background watching it. And it's interesting how quick Travis Kelsey looks compared to watching him in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. It's weird. It's weird watching him run and just even in motion and things like that. It's like, wow, he looks so young and so fresh. I mean, but it's just wear and tear on your body. He's played another full season in postseason games over his career in 17, 18 games. So where's the next step of your offense post Tyreek Hill? In their mind, it was A.J. Brown and Travis Kelce.
I just would like to assure everyone that, yes, Travis Kelce will be getting open against zone coverage, riding Charlie Weiss's scooter. Like, this is not going to be – he'll be 85 and open.
He'll be 38 and finding a way to get open in the zone.
I just genuinely, I think I believe that. Here more directly from that specific Albert Breer story that's filled with quotes from Brett Veach, so a lot of this is directly responded to. This is all paraphrased by Breer, but he says that's why when the Jets offered the 10th pick straight up for Hill, the Chiefs balked and asked for a package based on volume rather than quality picks to try to avoid being the team. I think this feels like a Veachism that got to Breer, but it's not quoted, so this is Breer's words. To avoid being the team that got Troy Williamson for Randy Moss. You can look up the Raiders-Vikings trade of 2005 for more on that.
Yeah.
It's also why the Chiefs eventually settled on a package offered from the team that Hill wanted to go to, the Dolphins. Miami would send the Chiefs 29th pick, as well as the 2nd rounder, 2 4th-rounders, and a 2023 6th-rounder, a package they took over a reworked Jets offer fronted by New York's 2 2nd-rounders. So it sounds like the order of operations here. I remember the reports at the time where we saw what the Jets were offering with 2 seconds, and was like, wow, they couldn't get that first, that 10th pick? Man, that would have been nice. Well, what we hear now from Breer via Veach is that the Jets started offering the number 10 overall pick, and the Chiefs said, well, we'd rather have your seconds and to see what we can bulk out the roster with.
Yeah,
so there was some motivation to bulk out the roster, to have more guys on rookie contracts. And so there's a lot of moving parts. If anything, Beards, I think this should make you feel better about the thing that you see when you close your sleep paralysis demon, when you close your eyes at night, and it's Patrick Mahomes being 40 years old, throwing to you and me in the slot. It's still Justin Watson. It's just Justin Watson and me.
It's Aaron Rodgers this year,
right?
Throwing to players that he's going. They're running the wrong routes.
It does. I do think this reflects well on the Chiefs realizing, hey, we're gonna have guys for Mahomes to throw to, and even in the Aaron Rodgers nightmares, Aaron Rodgers never had Travis Kelce, so that has made that transition, certainly this year, made that transition a lot easier.
when was A.J. Brown traded? Draft day?
I think it was on draft day.
Yeah, so he was traded in late April.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill was traded in late March.
In about 2 hours.
God, it really was quick. From
This show was crazy. From the Chiefs are exploring Tyreek Hill trade offers.
That was like the start of the show. Was that?
It was like
tweet.
10 o'clock.
Yeah.
12:30 he was traded. So obviously they were more than exploring it, and we know
really-
now it was a couple weeks in the making.
He's
for
like,
that.
did you hear that Jim and Mary they had a little argument yesterday? Oh, really? Oh, hold on, they're divorced. Whoa,
They
what
are
happened?
divorced.
Whoa, I thought somebody dropped a plate.
Yes.
He's
So,
in Miami now.
March 23rd. So March 22nd, March 23rd, around there is when the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill. A month later is when A.J. Brown was traded. But listening to A.J. Brown on the podcast saying that, no, he was told by the Titans they weren't trading him, that they were going to work something out.
Right.
So the Chiefs, when they were trading with the Jets or the Dolphins for Tyreek Hill, probably didn't think that A.J. Brown was being traded at that point.
It wasn't a 3-team NBA trade
Right.
at that moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
It wasn't, let me get number 10 so we can send it to A.J. Brown.
Right.
It was, let's extend out our roster.
Yep.
Let's get deeper, younger, cheaper at some of those positions, throw numbers at the cornerback spot, and figure that out without having to go in and re-up Charvarius Ward or overpay for somebody in the offseason, like a Bradbury or, a J.C. Jackson, something like that. But then closer to the draft, I think it might have been, hey, we'll give you 29 and 50. What do you think of that? And then they would be able to say, well, we traded Tyreek Hill for A.J. Brown, 2 fourths and a sixth, and we're saving money at the wide receiver spot than what Tyreek Hill was going to get paid.
Yep. I think that reflects on a flexibility for the situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
When there's a number one receiver on the market, Brett Veach is going to call. And gosh darn it, he should. If they have no interest, he should call and find out what the asking price is.
Yes.
And also, you can build out your roster this way and win a Super Bowl with it. I think all of this is a good continuing theme of organizational health that the Chiefs have shown.
And it's also a continual theme of Brett Veach, Andy Reid, of Patrick, we will make sure you have weapons.
Yep.
This was the year that, quote unquote, there wasn't a weapon outside of Travis Kelce. Yep. But even in that year, they traded a third rounder for Kadarius Toney. The free agent market for wide receivers is not good.
Which is going to make it harder to keep the guys that are here right now.
But also,
I also keep forgetting they have Justin Ross on this roster.
They do.
Hall of Famer Justin Ross.
But if they were going to move some of those pieces for A.J. Brown, is number 31 going to be selected by the Chiefs come draft day? And I know the joke about Brett Veach saying, well, Clark Hunt would not let me. The draft is here in Kansas City and da-da-da. They've said that, and they've talked about them joking. And Clark Hunt was like, no, he can, if it makes the team better. Yes, the draft's already in Kansas City. We don't lose the draft if we trade the first round. We still get the draft in Kansas City.
Can you imagine the mad scramble by the NFL?
Nope, they don't have a first round to get it out.
3 days before the draft.
Get it
they
out
trade for somebody.
Nope. They still have the draft in Kansas City. The only difference is they won't have the 10 minutes on pick 31 to end the night on the first round talking about the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. It will be talking about the Chiefs traded this pick and they got insert wide receiver here.
Also, just really quickly, the number one pick, they don't need 10 minutes. They have like 2 seconds to make their pick. They've had all offseason.
We should speed these up. I agree. This is a great take, Beard.
Just the first one. The
number one
needs
pick,
2 seconds to make
the number
their pick.
one pick it takes all 10 minutes, but the NFL wants them to.
Exactly.
The NFL does not want them to pick early on. They take your full 10 minutes. We just came out and said we're open for business. The Bears are on the clock, or whoever they've traded to. It's on the clock.
My concern
Take
is
your
that,
entire 10 minutes.
My concern is that Jim Irsay is going to walk out there on the stage with 9:58 left, and he's just going to do a tight 10. Like, he's going to do a little monologue and then say, and we're taking Bryce Young.
Absolutely.
Peace, losers.
Lights are on. Let me get into my tight 10. I just flew in from Indy, and boy, are my arms tired. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
The Gambit, other than being a character from X-Men, this describes it as a device. Channing Tatum actually Tatum?
Wow.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. A lot of decisions for the Chiefs coming up in the offseason. The window.
Diamonds they got to put on that ring.
That's exactly right. That window for the franchise tag, it opens, but ultimately I think it'll be placed on Orlando Brown, and then we'll see what happens moving forward. If they get a deal done, if they trade him for something. My buddy in Tennessee reached out. Is like, hey, Orlando Brown, because they're going to cut Taylor Lewan. They save $15 million against the cap by cutting him. There's zero dead money, so it's just a straight $15 million they save by releasing him. And they've saved some money with him being put on IL, the DL, IL, IR. We're in baseball now. There's a lot of different terminology.
Some lists where guys aren't playing.
Yeah. So placed on the IR the last few years, they have saved some money against the cap because he's been off injured.
Remembering also it's a new GM there in Tennessee now after their kind of weird firing there late into the season, right? They also have apparently are in the process of releasing Robert Woods and saving $12 million in cap for Tennessee this year. I want to plant that seed right now. You want to talk about he was that fit in Tennessee was sort of weird. And I don't know how much he ended up playing at all last year. I'll look into that. But you want to talk about a guy being added to the receiver market who could use 1 year to maybe try to get his reputation back up a little bit before getting paid a little more. Has the reputation as a guy who can block on the outside, lets you run some stuff even in base personnel. I'm just saying.
He played all 17 games this year.
Did he really? Well, maybe he might have fallen down the depth chart with some hastiness too, because he was fantastic with the Rams.
Problem is,
he's also used better in LA.
Hey, Josh, just real quick, what did you say specifically about the Titans and Robert Woods?
That they are releasing him and saving $12 million against the cap.
Okay, cool. Just make sure.
What did you? What did it?
I thought you said that there were rumors about it, and then I was going to read this tweet that they are releasing him.
No, it's just I said they're in the process of, because I don't know when all of those moves get really super duper final.
Okay, cool.
So he had with the Rams in 2020. Robert Woods had 90 for almost 1,006 touchdowns. Last year with the Rams, in 9 games, because he got injured, 9 games he had 45 for 550 and 4 in 9 games. So there were 8 games that he did not play in. So you can almost double that. Even if you don't, you're looking at 85 and 906, kind of what he did the year before. And this year in Tennessee, in 17 games, 91 targets, 53 receptions, so a catch percentage that was the lowest of his career since his rookie year in Buffalo in 2013. 58% catch percentage.
Who were his quarterbacks this year?
Tannehill and Willis and
a minute of Josh Dobbs at the end.
Josh Dobbs, 53 receptions, 527 yards, and only 2 touchdowns. Also 9.9 yards per reception, which was down by 3 yards from the year before. And down by 3 yards from his career. So Robert Woods is going to be 31. He's a few years removed from his, 90 receptions, 1,000 yards, and 6 touchdowns with LA a couple of years ago. And he's an injured season and a year with the Titans removed from that. But that would be kind of the recipe of hey, let's bring in a guy who's been pretty damn good and probably wants to go someplace that can throw the ball, and he's not playing with Malik Willis and Josh Dobbs and Ryan Tannehill. Oh, hey, you get to play with Patrick Mahomes. Are you going to go the 1 year, $15 million with the Jets? Or would you like to go 1 year whatever? Because, by the way, Juju signed for 3 and people were shocked by it. What did he end up making, 9?
Probably about that, yeah.
8 or 9?
Really near the top of his incentives.
Yeah, I mean, so much of those were not likely to be earned, which are then rolling over to the salary cap this year, which I think we talked about last week when it was like, the Chiefs have all this cap space. The Chiefs don't have any more cap space. What the hell happened? Oh, yeah, that's right. We had talked about it on the air live, looking through it and going, oh, that's right, Juju is cash is like $8.5, $9 million this year. and that's added to the salary cap this year. That's really all you have to bring up to some of these receivers and go, hey, Juju got all those receptions and yards and playing time, and he ended up with $9 million this year.
Robert, listen, we know. Look, I didn't burn off the tape from 2020, Robert. We in Kansas City, know what you had to go through last year. All right, we kept an eye on that Titans team, but not that close of an eye because, I mean, honestly, look at them, you get it. It must have been really hard for you because you've been such an elite player throughout these stretches of your career, and just in an offense didn't know how to use you. That's just the Super Bowl ring, man. I should let me take it off. It's stuck on my finger. I'm gonna go ahead and keep it there.
Hard to type.
And especially when I get my second one, it's gonna be pretty heavy. But listen, we got this number 15 fella over here. If you've worn blue most of your career, if you want to go ahead and put on a red jersey, we'll get you over here. We'll get you just 1 year. We'll get you on that Juju plan. We're gonna keep you healthy. We're gonna get your workload right. We're gonna let you do the things you do best. Next year, you hit that free agency again. Maybe we figure it out long term here, whatever. But we're gonna show the world what you can do. We're going to keep you away from Ryan Tannehill and Malik Willis and Mike Vrabel and all them guys, all right?
Don't worry.
Robert, you're home. And scene. That was Brett Veach speaking to Robert Woods, trying to keep him from leaving Kansas City before he signs his deal in about a month.
Juju Smith-Schuster signed a 1 year, $3.8 million contract with the Chiefs, 2.5 guaranteed. So 1 year, $2.5 million guaranteed. Last year, he made $9.2 million because his per-game active bonus, his catch incentive bonus, he ended up making $1.5 million in incentives on the receptions. He ended up making $1.5 million in the incentives in yards. He ended up making $1.5 million in the playing time is what he ended up getting. So playing time, 1.5 for receptions, 1.5 for yards, and $1 million for the Super Bowl, for playing 50% of the snaps in the Super Bowl. Made $5 and change on incentives alone.
We got to keep in mind that his incentives are funny because everything was not likely to be earned because he was hurt the year before.
That's true.
So with Robert Woods, you'd have to figure out where you want to put all those numbers.
The playing time incentive would be likely to be earned.
Right, sure, yes. But the postseason ones wouldn't be, right? So it's a fun jumble of all sorts of messes there in the contracts. But you could get that cap space, and if it's likely to be earned incentive that doesn't get paid out, that cap space just rolls over to the next year. So that is not even the most important part of all of the incentives, but it's just a fun little wrinkle of Juju's deal. And with Robert Woods, if he's been around that 500-yard mark these last 2 years.
Well, I mean, Juju's incentive started at 40 receptions,
right,
for $500,000, 50 receptions for $1 million, 65 receptions, $1.5 million, non-cumulative. It's whatever you get to, that's the money you get. I mean, with Robert Woods, you can start it at 55 because he had 53 last year.
Yep.
You get to 55, here's $500,000.
Yep.
You get to 65, we'll give you $1 million. You get to 75, 80, we give 1.5. So now, whatever we've signed you for, add on, $1.5 million to that. I don't know that he would go for a Juju Smith-Schuster contract. Also, with the wide receiver market being what it is, probably a number of teams that would say, hey, let's go bring in Robert Woods.
And there are also, I've already seen a couple people on Twitter say, well, why not just keep Juju? Well, because that's all true for Juju too. I don't know where the markets are going to shake out or who the Chiefs are going to have within range. The more guys like this that hit the market, the better chances there are that Juju sticks around because somebody else prefers Robert Woods. Or if Juju gets a huge market somewhere else because he's younger, I would be very interested in seeing what Woods could do here.
Well, and the other part of that too is that, Juju is somebody that every single year has missed games because of injuries. You have to account for that when you're bringing in Juju Smith-Schuster. Who do you have around him? Because there will be 2, 3, 4 games he will not play in. Robert Woods, until last year when he tore his ACL, had missed like a game in the previous 4 years. So he played all 17 games this year. So the only time he's missed extended amount of time is when he had the knee injury. He hasn't had, well, here's a hamstring. Okay, here's a knee that's going to keep him out. All right, his knee is swelling. Unfortunate concussion, not Juju Smith-Schuster's fault. But little things along the way for Juju over the last 4 or 5 years have kept him from playing a full season. Robert Woods, torn ACL. That's what kept him from playing 8 games with the Rams.
He's also almost 5 full years older, which is just a reminder that Juju is 20, just turned
Absolutely
26.
True. But we're not talking about a 5-year deal.
Correct.
We're talking about Juju 1 year, Robert Woods 1 year. I think with the groin surgery for McColl, he's back in the conversation for a 1 year.
Yep.
Because does he go out and get Christian Kirk money coming off of groin surgery? I don't know. Maybe. Like, I thought he could get Christian Kirk money. We talked about that last offseason. McCall Hardman's playing his last year because somebody's going to bring him in to be the playmaker with the way the Chiefs use him, or maybe thinking they can get more out of him than the Chiefs are getting out of him. MVS type. Well, MVS is only doing this. We're going to do full route tree with this guy. That they're going to pay him that money. Now with the groin, I don't know, maybe he stays for 1 year. There are some other possibilities that are there. As we talked about, the wide receiver market we know was going to be thin, but it wasn't going to be completely thin forever because there were going to be some cap casualties and some trade pieces available that we know Brett Veach certainly would be interested in. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up this hour next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Rest your mind, enjoy some time with the family, get that groin ready to go.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, wrapping things up here on this 11 o'clock hour. We continue rolling. We'll talk with Todd Leabo in Surprise, Arizona coming up in the next segment. Next hour, talking a little baseball.
That's expected.
It is not a surprise. At some point, we'll stop doing that, right?
When we do, you know what it'll be?
It'll be a joke.
Shocking.
It'll be expected Arizona. So we'll talk with him about this Royals team, some positional battles, bullpens, starters, etc. Maybe hear about Jordan Lyles, new face, newcomer to the Royals rotation. Hear a little bit about that and get the lay of the land with one Todd Leabo. Comes up next right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
This Sports Center is brought to you by the University of St. Mary. University of St. Mary Overland Park campus classes start March 13th. Learn more at a virtual info session tomorrow night, February 23rd at stmary.edu/RSVP. Two big local wins last night after KU handled their business on Monday night. Mizzou gets a buzzer beater in their win over Mississippi State, 66-64. Nick Honor hits it. Just a little time remaining on the clock in OT. Meanwhile, K-State gets the win over Baylor, 75-65, completing the sunflower sweep of Baylor over these last couple of games for the Bears. K-State down at half makes the comeback for the late win there. Meanwhile, Drew Waters has a left oblique strain, will be out for 6 weeks. We'll go live to Surprise, Arizona, talk to our own Todd Leabo about what's next for the Royals outfield, the pitching rotation, and much, much more. That's coming up next here in The Zone. I'm Joshua Brisco. This is SportsCenter.
This spring training report is brought to you by Walk-Off Wood Bat Company, located in St. Joe, where every bat is meticulously crafted to the highest of standards. Learn more about their elite-level customized bats at WOWBats.com.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Josh Brisco, Beards. Let's head out to Surprise, Arizona, where we find our man Todd Leabo hanging out there at Royal Spring Training. Todd, how are you, sir?
Well, guys, I survived a winter storm out here.
Whoa.
I'm telling you. So it actually is very windy today, and that's why I'm actually in a car right now. So I got the window cracked a little bit. I mean, it is really windy. So it's a rough day to do all that kind of stuff. But so it was like 40-some degrees this morning, 49 this morning, and it rained a little bit last night. It was very windy. So I get up, I turn the TV on, and they're talking about a winter storm. And I was like, I don't think, I guess it's winter, and it did rain, and it's windy, so it is a winter storm. And there's a lady she's at a coffee shop, and she's interviewing old guys having coffee. And these guys, you know what they used to do? They would ride their bikes. You normally would ride their bikes to coffee, but they drove today because of the winter storm. And this one guy says, yeah, I went out and my mat had blown off the porch. I mean, the humanity going on out here. The sun's out now, but it is very windy. It's a windy day. Not nearly as nice as it's been the last few days. So
yeah.
Serena and I are leaving tonight, so good. So everyone else can enjoy the colder weather. But yeah, the winter storm. I just want thoughts and prayers for us out here, trying to make it through the winter storm.
He had to go and get the mat that blew off his porch. I forgot this morning to take all the pillows and everything off the chairs on our porch because it's supposed to be like gusts of like 40 miles an hour today here in KC. So that made me think like, oh, wait, I'm going to get home and there's going to be a pillow 3 houses
down. The same storm.
So,
the same storm's coming, guys.
Is it really? Oh,
be careful.
How about that? I
guess
so
the wind blows from west to east.
Well, it is going to get colder here. You guys are getting back just in time for it to get colder.
I know. I want to ask Brisco, you didn't mention anything in the Sports Center about KD and the Suns, because out here, that's all they're talking about.
Is it?
So why is there nothing on this Kansas City Sports about KD? Because they don't know when he's going to play. Is he going to play Friday? He's going to play whatever.
It's been a long con. So when I fell asleep here after the Super Bowl, Beards actually put a shot collar on me, and he said, anytime you talk about Kevin Durant and the Suns, I'm going to hit the button. And so I've been pretty good. Beards, Leabo asked. That's not fair. That is not a justified reason to do it.
No mercy. Counts.
It shouldn't be every time I say the name Kevin Durant.
No mercy.
You haven't learned.
You'll learn.
Can I say his initials or what's? What if I?
No,
Beards, can I talk about the Slim Reaper?
See? Nope. Can't do it.
Durantula.
He goes by Durantula.
There is some excitement out here about that. They have new ownership and all that stuff.
Interesting.
So we don't have the NBA stuff.
I figured.
Excited about that.
I figured it'd be a lot of Gannon talk and Kyler Murray and
plenty of that too.
And how are they going to move forward with that guy?
On my drive in today, they're trying to figure out if it's okay to put Kyler Murray under center. Okay, so.
Well, I mean, he fits
on a step stool.
Are they talking about like actually just standing under center?
Yeah, actually under center. He's not. Think about that. The quarterback sneaks next evolution. It's just Kyler Murray takes the hike and then runs through Rodney Hudson's legs. Is he still there?
That's exactly right.
That'd be good. That'd be good. Yeah. So that's all a topic out here, and they have they're excited about this Gannon. They did lament about how his defense got torched in the second half of the Super Bowl. I don't know if you guys remember that, but
I do.
They've hired 2 coordinators. I guess their average age of head coach and coordinator is like 35 years old.
Yeah.
So it's young and fresh out here. But Cliff Kingsbury was like 30-some years old too. So I don't know.
That worked out though.
Yeah.
So just keep getting younger. Just keep getting. Eventually, they're going to hire like a 25-year-old. It's going to be Bill Russell. Kyler is going to be the coach player. That's what he's going to be. So I talked a little bit about when we started the show, Todd, just sort of setting up what the show was going to be, and not being on the air the last couple of days while you guys have been down in Surprise. Waiting for these games to start. And we find out that Daniel Lynch will start the first game on Friday for spring training. And I think Daniel Lynch would have to pitch his way out of the rotation while somebody pitches their way in the rotation. But really, it'd have to be Daniel Lynch pitching his way out of the rotation. Singer could be the opening day starter. Zach Greinke's in there. And Jordan Lyles is in this as well. Like, I feel like there are 4 of the 5 guys kind of figured out for the starters, and then there's like 6 or 7 guys that could be that 5th starter. Certainly bullpen pieces and some guys on the offensive side and some positional players. But am I too, let's say, bullish on Daniel Lynch needing to pitch his way out? And maybe that's why he's starting game number 1, because they want to get a full view on him. But certainly Singer, Greinke, and Lyles feel like those are the 3 guys of the 5 that will be in the rotation.
I think you're probably right. Quatraro, he's really not committing to anything about any of that stuff right now. We've tried to ask him about opening day starters and what he looks for, not saying who it's going to be, but he's like, I haven't thought about any of it. And what about what you go through in Tampa? Well, they never asked me. I just looked, So he is really staying away from those questions at this point. But Zach Greinke's not going to – they didn't re-sign him to be a bullpen arm.
Yeah.
Brady Singer certainly is deserving of being in the starting rotation. And they didn't give Jordan Lyles $17 million over 2 years to come in here and throw the 5th inning. So I think you're right about those guys. And Lynch showed some signs, and, I think he's probably that guy who's going to get every chance to stay in that rotation. We'll see what the rest of it comes down to. They signed the kid from Tampa. They've obviously got, Bubic would love to pitch his way into that rotation. He got lots of chances last year, and he's working on new things to try to, and they have, listen, we've talked about this a couple of times. The new pitching coach is Brian Sweeney. It's kind of new ideas and different ways to go about this. It's probably not, you're talking about a big ship. You don't turn it in a day, but we're just hearing and feeling good vibes about all of that stuff. So maybe Chris Bubic can pitch his way in there and turn it around. And, you can't be running around with a...
Running around with a what? Running around with the what?
What can you not be running around with?
I want to know what he's running around with. What he's
Brad
not.
Keller.
Oh, he's back.
This is
He's
the
back. Yes.
Leabo.
We lost you when you said you can't be running around with a, and then it went away. And we're like, oh, what's he running around with?
Sorry about that.
You're good. What can't you be running around with?
A 5.5 ERA. I have my phone on Do Not Disturb.
Oh, no.
My phone is on Do Not Disturb, and it rang. So I don't know how that happened. But you can't be running around with a 5.5 ERA, okay? Well, although half the Royals staff, it was my daughter.
Turn on the radio.
Half the staff did last year. So Chris Bubic, if he can get that ERA in the 4s, it would be great, you know?
I mean,
but I think Brad Keller is another guy to look at as well. Because this is a huge year for Brad Keller to prove that he can be a major league starter, because it's time for him to get paid as well.
Now Josh is just texting you for no reason. Are you going to start calling Leabo too, just to be a jerk?
I wanted to draw the line at not making him disconnect, but I was just curious if he would see our texts or not.
The coaching difference, I think, is going to be fascinating because whether it was Cal Eldred, whether it was Daniel Lynch or Chris Bubic, just themselves and not being good enough. But Daniel Lynch the last 2 years has given up or has the second highest earned run or ERA in the first inning the last 2 years. He's got an ERA of 8 in the in the first inning last 2 years. Now, is that lack of prep work? Is that him not being comfortable on the mound or getting comfortable, whatever it might be? That to me is where like Sweeney and those guys, can they change that? Because if you can fix that, and by the way, Chris Bubic has an almost 7 ERA in the first inning, so he ain't exactly going out and being Greg Maddux in the first. those guys have been hit around.
And you're
early
also
in the game.
facing the best hitters.
True, absolutely. But those
you're
guys
definitely facing the best hitters too. Right?
True.
So
those guys are getting hit. Although in the third inning, Daniel Lynch has like a 3.4 ERA. And maybe you're facing some of the best hitters then as well. Whereas looking it up, Jordan Lyles is kind of the same throughout the game. He's not going to go out there, and I think that's part of the value in him is that the last 2 years he's made 62 starts with a 4.8 ERA in those 62 starts. But you're not going to enter you're not expected to enter the second inning down 5-0, down 6-0. When you're trying to learn how to win, you're developing guys. You need to also have your bullpen, not be getting taxed, game in and game out, because you got two guys that are going to the mound and getting pulled in the first inning or the second inning that you need some professional starts. And it feels like, 3 out of 5, the Royals are going to have professional starts with Singer and Greinke and Lyles. Not going to be DeGrom out there and Scherzer, but you don't expect to, on a home game, go into the bottom of the first and you're down 4 runs already because Lynch or Bubic couldn't figure it out in the first.
Well, I think that would be job one for this staff and for those pitchers to be better in the first inning. Their theme down here is raid the zone. And,
Damn right.
First pitch strikes.
We will defend this show. Sweeney, bring it. We will defend this show with everything we have, with the full power, our weight behind it. You want to raid the zone? Bring it, because I guarantee you're going to want to go after a zone that's your own weight, and that ain't this one.
I surrendered now, just in case anyone's wondering. Yeah, sorry.
Damn it. They are taking Brisco.
But they get in their worst positions when they don't throw strikes, right?
True.
I mean,
Yep.
no one is better when it's 2-0 or 3-1 as a pitcher. So they need to get first pitch strikes. A lot of it's probably confidence, but there's plenty of data and different things that they're working with these guys in the minutia of pitching. But it's going to be hugely important for them. And eventually maybe something will click. The Jordan Lyles, we'll hear from him here. Jordan Lyles is a guy who was a high draft pick who came up very early and has had plenty of bumps in the road along his way. And he, at this point, looks like he figured it out last year in Baltimore. And you can go get yourself $17 million over 2 years. Eventually, being a high draft pick, you will quit getting those opportunities unless you fix things and get better at it. They're not just going to continue to give you money to do the job if you can't do it. And that's going to be an important part because these are not kids anymore. These aren't 21-year-old kids. They weren't 21-year-old kids when they got picked. They were all college kids, right? And we're 3 years plus into this for them. They're 25-year-old guys, basically. Mm-hmm. They need to figure it out at this point. It's not quite poop or get off the pot for most of them. It is probably for Brad Keller with his service time, but for Bubic and Lynch and Kowar, it's time to figure it out for sure. And maybe Jordan Lyles can be an example, right, of kind of how to do that. I'll play a couple things here for you. First, this is Matt Quatraro talking about Jordan Lyles, kind of why they signed him and what he can bring to this rotation.
Well, he pitched against us a lot last year in Tampa with Baltimore, and he what impressed me is he takes the ball, and he competes. He never wants to come out of the game. He can give you a ton of pitches, a ton of innings, and I think he's evolving as a pitcher. Just listening to him talk the other day about his repertoire and how he wants to use it, it's a similar to Zach, that they never stop learning. They're trying to tweak, get this guy out. They think they've got all these reps under their belt of things that have hurt them before and things that have helped them, and they're obviously trying to maximize the positives, and that really stands out to me about him.
And so he's learned some stuff, right? You go through the league, you have your ups and downs. I mean, he spent some time in Colorado, really hard to win out there. And he got on a team last year, and I think the cool part maybe that kind of fits this, Baltimore was way better than people thought last year, right?
Yeah.
With a lot of young players, and he was a part of that. This probably could feel a little Baltimore-y to him with some of the young players around, and maybe he can bring some of that vibe and that feel to it to some of these young pitchers and help them as well. I do think they have an interesting group. You've got a 20-year vet in Greinke, and you've got Lyles, who was a high draft pick and came up early and fought through, and he's in that later part of his career. He's probably he's over halfway done, right?
Yeah.
And then you got these guys who it's time. It's time to make those leaps, and I think that'll be interesting to see how they go.
Yeah, they've got Greinke and Lyles that have combined for 770 starts essentially in their career. So that interesting mix: Brady Singer, younger guy; Lynch, younger guy; Bubic, younger guy. Then you throw in Greinke and Lyles, and those guys are going to be older. Yarborough is an older guy as well. And that's the other part is like, I mentioned the 3 guys that you feel like are in this rotation, and Singer, Greinke, and Lyles. So there's 3 right-handers. So, who's the lefty? Is it Lynch? Is it Yarborough? Is it Bubic? Is it 2 of those guys that they would like to see? Brad Keller, Heasley, who makes the spot? But, Keller and Heasley are righties, so it kind of feels like they may be odd men out if they're saying we've already got 3 righties here and we need a couple of these lefties to come up and make some noise. Is it Lynch? Is it Yarborough? Is it Bubic that can do that? It's not going to be Zerpa because, he was shut down later on in the year last year. So maybe he ends up being that guy, but it probably taken a little bit slower with him. So Lyles is an interesting one, and Yarborough is going to be an interesting one because those are the 2 guys that we don't really know much about in terms of pitching for the Royals. But they do.
Right. Matt Quatrero obviously does. Yeah. They know a lot about these guys. And we'll want to watch them pitch here in spring and see what they bring. I know this. More than 5 guys are going to start baseball teams for the Royals this year.
That's right.
Heck, it may be 10, could be 12. Who knows how it ends up going. But let's hear from Jordan Lyles now. We got him on a Zoom after he got signed, and I had seen him a couple of days ago, and I didn't get a chance. But today I got a chance to talk to him for quite a while, and I just started off talking about kind of what he likes so far about this camp.
It's been pretty laid back. Q's doing a really good job of not having the players standing around doing nothing on the fields, getting our work in, and then going about our business in our own way. The facilities over here are pretty nice. So, and then lastly, just for me personally, just getting to know all the guys, the training staff, clubhouse staff, coaching staff. It's been a smooth transition.
It was going to be all new for you either way because you're coming to a new club. It's new stuff for a lot of these guys. We're learning a little bit about Brian Sweeney and his style as a pitching coach. What are your thoughts so far, and anything he's helped you with yet?
Yeah, we've had a really good back and forth. The dialogue and conversations, they've been productive. He's a newer age guy with he likes the video, he likes the numbers, and I enjoy that. I love fresh new ideas, different perspectives, and it's been a good relationship so far.
Yeah, did he come see you in the off season? I know he flew around and met a lot of guys. Did you guys get a chance to talk before you got here?
Just on the phone, a couple phone calls, the whole pitching department a few times.
Yeah. You mentioned the data and all that stuff. You've been in the league for a long time. You like that stuff? How much has maybe your idea of using data and all those different things changed as you've gone through your career?
Yeah, it's definitely changed from zero to what it is today, and 10 years from now it's going to be even crazier. But me personally, I enjoy getting a different perspective. Like I said earlier, like when I came up, it was just kind of throw stuff against the wall and see if it sticks. And now there's data and that backs certain things you do well or you don't do well, where you need to improve. So the information's easier to get your hands on nowadays. Things are quicker to resonate and show its face, so you can make adjustments on the fly. So I enjoy everything that comes along with the new age technologies.
One of the things that's most important, I guess, is like you say, is to back something up. You know what it feels like to throw a pitch that you like, and the data backs that up and helps you. Can it help you repeat that? I mean, that's the idea, right? To know what feels right?
Yeah, for me personally, if something feels right or something jumps off the paper or iPads in this situation when we're out there working, it's just instant feedback. If something feels good but the numbers don't say otherwise, it gives you more thought to think about, hey, even though it looked and felt good to me, over time it might not play as well. And that's where things have changed over the years. I keep saying that there's numbers on papers that justify or back a certain good or bad pitch.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about the mix of guys you have in this rotation at this point. I mean, you've been in the league for a long time, but not nearly as long as Zach's been in the league. You got some young guys. You like this mix of guys?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm not too familiar with all the young guys over here yet. Mm-hmm. These are a lot of new faces for me. Obviously, I think Baltimore came to Kansas City earlier in the year last year, so a lot of these young guys that made their debuts last year, I wasn't able to see. Right. But arm-wise, talent-wise, the guys that I'm throwing next to, bullpens-wise, and throwing live BPs is electric. Guys aren't throwing 90 anymore. Everyone's throwing mid to upper 90s. It's fun to see. I wish I could join them, but there's just a lot of power arms around here that do a lot of things well on the mound.
You find your way to get people out, and you can stay in this league and do it. I mean, like Zach's not throwing at 97 miles an hour anymore. I mean, he's certainly someone to watch to say how you can stay in this league and keep doing stuff. Correct?
For sure. That part of the game's kind of going by the wayside. So it's more of a testament to Zach and how he's able to still compete at a high level at that. So I'm looking forward to building that relationship with him, picking his mind, his brain, all the experience and all the things he's achieved over the years. Like you said, when he was throwing hard versus competing at a lesser velocity. Everyone looks up to him. Everyone wants to get a percentage of his knowledge. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right, so we've got some rule changes, pitch clock and all that. Some of the young guys have pitched in the minors. They've done some of this stuff. What are you doing to get yourself ready for this when you get in the games?
Well, I'm learning the news, the rules in general. But I mean, we have my first live batting practice. We had the clock out there. It'll take a handful of times to just be aware of the situation. I'm sure I'll have a learning curve first game or two in spring training, but luckily we got a month or so worth of games that we can kind of tinker with, and then I'll just ask questions with the guys who had experience with it last year and kind of get their feel and learn from them. But as all rule changes in baseball, people, they might have a stink about it to start with, but we adjust and we get ready. And in a month or two after the season starts, it won't be an issue.
Have you been a quick worker? Do you like to work quick?
Yeah.
So
it won't be an issue for me. I'm pretty good at not slowing the game down already. But guys on base and like holding times and stuff, that's where I'm a little skeptical at right now, where I have to learn and be better at.
Right. And then the shift rules, I assume pitchers will probably like that they're going back to the old way, or have you already trained yourself to pitch to the shift now, and what will that adjustment be like?
I don't think pitchers will pitch differently. Guys in the box, they have their own patterns and do certain things. It honestly doesn't affect the pitcher much. The hitter's tendencies will take over where they miss balls, where they hit ground balls at, and stuff like that. But I think overall, guys won't change much mentality-wise. And then if guys are going to enjoy it or not, that's to be seen. When shifting got popular 10 years ago, or started to transition, guys didn't enjoy that right away, and I would say the last handful of years, guys have adapted and realized that the numbers speak for themselves shift-wise. So it'll take time to get a feel for how guys enjoy it or not.
It's very early, right? You guys haven't played any games yet. That'll come later this week. Do you have any goals for yourself this spring or for the year?
No, just continue to work on a few pitches. I'm trying to get the changeup dialed in, get that a little bit more consistent. Continue to work on a two-seam that I probably implemented the second half of last year. So kind of just trying to make those two pitches a little bit more consistent that I can lean on a couple percentage points more throughout the season.
There's Jordan Lyles, new Royals pitcher, and I think you're right, guys. He's going to be in the rotation. I like to talk to these guys who have, had a career in the majors about some of these changes, because it's pretty stark for them, the pitch clock stuff. I think I'm fascinated to watch how this whole thing works out and how some of these guys deal with it, because we know this. Baseball players like their routines. They don't like a lot of changes, and we'll have to watch and see. It's going to be great. And maybe not all fun stuff around the Royals, but we will see some wild things happen in Major League Baseball with some of these pitch clock deals. As Matt Quatraro told us the other day, it's going to be chaos early on.
I love that. We look at the difference of we talk about the starting staff of the eclectic group and diverse in terms of age. That he talks about a learning curve that'll be there in spring training in the pitch clock, and I'll have to ask some of the guys who have experience with it. He's going to go to the minor leaguers to ask, hey, what do you guys do with this? How do you guys approach this pitch clock? The minor leaguers are like, hey, what do I do in that third deck up there? How do you navigate that? Hey, pitch clock, what do you do? What's worked for you? Let's talk to the young guys, the minor leaguers, to get some tips for the big league players. That's an interesting dynamic this year.
Everyone can learn from everyone. It's pretty cool. And, they're doing things like when they're throwing their bullpens, they got pitch clocks up. You can just train yourself to kind of know how long things take. But then, what happens, and when I was just chit-chatting with him afterwards, and he thinks there are, a lot of relief pitchers who maybe work a little slower because they come in and maybe there's someone on base, and it just gets harder. You're automatically coming in like that. And maybe it'll be a harder adjustment for some of them because so many different things go on when someone's on base, like, the signals, the hand signals, and looking around. And so he thinks it might be harder for some of them. And, there are some notorious slow workers on the mound and, at the plate too, guys who step out a lot, and they'll be the big adjustment. But generally speaking, the way he talks about himself there, and some of these we talked about to Brady Singer about this the other day. Brady Singer's a fast worker when things are going well, of course. Yeah. It always seems to go off the rails when things don't go well, and that's when it will really have the effect because things are already going bad. Oh, ball 3. What? I don't know. I didn't throw a pitch. Well, you should have, son. It'll be fun to watch though. I'm excited about it. I think it's good that baseball is making it an effort to make the games go better.
I wonder how strict they'll be early on. Like it won't be like in the NFL, that's the delay a game of where you look and see 0, then you look down and see if they've snapped the ball. I wonder if they'll be really strict, with guys both in the batter's box and on the mound, that if they try to lay down the law more early on as opposed to then having to ramp up. Like, okay, guys, we're kind of, a little lax with this. I wonder what the beginning of the season will be like. Like Salvi will be in there and all of a sudden it's, sorry, Salvi, strike 3. You weren't ready in time. I know bases were loaded and there was 2 outs, but you weren't ready.
Well,
strike
if
3.
You want it to work, you better call it early if you want it to work.
Absolutely.
That's my thought on it. And then there's probably an emphasis. But here's the deal too: the umpires haven't done it either.
Yeah, that's true. They've got to ask the minor league
umpires. They haven't dealt with these rules. Hey guys, what's it like down there in Double-A? How do you do this?
Yep, absolutely.
But that's what spring training's all about. I mean, they'll start playing games, and this will be the way to implement this. And it'll. I think by the time we get to regular season, they should all have it kind of figured out. But there will still be a time when you're in the middle of a game and you're really concentrating on what you're doing, and all of a sudden you look up and you got a second to throw the pitch. Oops, that's how it's going to go.
And the evolution with the Royals as well. He talked about he likes the videos and the numbers, does Brian Sweeney, the pitching coach, a fresh perspective, new ideas, and thinking from Ned Yost to Mike Matheny to Matt Quatraro, the evolution of the numbers of the game and using the numbers of the game. It's interesting from maybe being reluctant to, you know what, I've studied it, I'm going to try it, to... No, we're gonna look at the numbers. We're gonna look at the video. We're in. This is what we do. This is how we're gonna run a baseball team. So we'll see how that affects them moving forward. Todd, you're the man. Enjoy the rest of your time there, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.
We'll do it, guys. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. There's Todd Leabo, our coverage there in Surprise. He and Seren wrapping up their coverage. Seren's final day there in Surprise. It's been great stuff. Listening into the different interviews and conversations they've had and getting to know some of the guys as well. Like getting to know Jordan Lyles. Don't know much about him, except he's a righty. And he's going to take the mound every 5 days, and he's probably going to get you to the 6th. He and Greinke will probably do that, and Brady Singer will probably do that, and then figure out after that what takes place. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue talking some Royals baseball more right after this.
This spring training report has been brought to you by Walk-Off Wood Bat Company, located in St. Joe, where every bat is meticulously crafted to the highest of standards. Learn more about their elite-level customized bats at WOWBats.com.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Kids are dumb. My kid can barely read. My other one can't. Can barely talk. Barely even knows to go potty on a toilet.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco and Beers. Thank you to Todd Leabo joining us in the previous segment, hanging out in Surprise, Arizona. Mick Shaffer will be our guest coming up at 1 o'clock. 913-912-4810. We heard from Jordan Lyles there, and I'd have to go back and look at fan graphs to see the pitch usage. He said middle of the season he started working on a two-seamer. Said, Todd asked, goals, what are you trying to accomplish and everything? And he said, well, just tighten up the change-up and continue working on the two-seamer that I started to develop in the second half of the season last year. Second half of the season last year, or at least July, August, September, in those 12 starts, he had a 3.8 ERA. In those 12 starts, and he averaged each outing pitching into the sixth inning. So essentially 5 2/3. So you'd have 2 outs in the sixth inning when he handed it over to the bullpen. And with a 3.8 ERA over 12 starts, again, I'd have to go to FanGraphs and see the usage and see when he started using it. Is it a big factor, or is that coincidental with that? But certainly if that's something that he used and then is saying that, that started to help out with him as what he did, July, August, September. Yeah, that'd be pretty big for the Royals if you get a guy like Jordan Lyles that every 5 days is going to take the mound, pitch into the sixth inning, and give up 2 or 3 runs when he hands it over to the bullpen. That would be big. And so certainly a positive there if that happens. But again, these are the thing about the Royals this year. It's like, if this happens, if that happens, if this happens, if that happens, they'll get over their win total of 69.5 in Vegas DraftKings, which I was tempted because I'm more of the optimist when it comes to our ZOUs, and I think I think they're going to win 70 games at least this year. 71, 72, but you're talking about the difference of 69 and 72 is, my quick math says it's only 3, and I don't know that I want to put any money on the Royals over 69.5, because that would just be really annoying late in the season if they end up with like 67, 68, building off of what they have last year, 65. I don't even remember, mid-60s.
I deleted that from my brain pretty quickly.
Deleted. The talk about the coaching staff.
65 and 97.
Okay, so yes. I mean, it was like mid-60s.
Didn't lose 100.
Darn right. I said all year this does not seem like a 100-loss team to me, and that was
weren't.
right. Until I did say, well, I guess this is a 100-loss season, and then they didn't. They didn't make a whole lot of changes in their pitching staff in the minor leagues. Development, R&D, that stuff in the minor leagues, we questioned, okay, so what's the deal there? The pitching has been pretty bad. So, and J.J. Piccolo has said, well, it's been, we're looking at the big leagues. We're looking at the issue being with the big league club. Okay. It's pitching development, different narrative when you're talking about the minor leagues. He said he doesn't get asked about the minor leagues very often, gets asked about the major leagues. That's where a lot of the criticism has come. Well, yeah, because you've got fans out at Kauffman Stadium watching the big league club play and not saying, hey, why is Alec Marsh not developing this year? It's the hell's going on with Jackson Kowar? Daniel Lynch can't get out of the first inning. Chris Bubich, first inning. Brad Keller. Where's the Brad Keller of 18 to 20? Like, where's that guy in 2018, 2020? Where's he at? He's gone. People aren't, hey, Bolin coming back from the Tommy John. Is he going to be fine? Mazzucato, why isn't he developing other things? How's he coming on? Ben Hernandez, how many people that are maybe in conversations with J.J. Piccolo are discussing those things? Although he is more, going into with last year before he was the GM, more of the guy that would be over all of that. I bring up the coaching staff for a couple of reasons. One, mentioned with Todd Leabo, Daniel Lynch is awful in the first inning and has an ERA of 8 over the last 2 years in the first inning. Chris Bubich is awful in the first inning. Was that coaching last year? Was it lack of preparation? Was it too much information to them to where they're trying to scouting report their specific everything is low and outside of here? Here's the zone that I got to put it in with this particular guy. This pitch at this spot, at this location, at this time, with this many outs, or this. Like, was it paralysis by analysis? I don't know. But the thing that I'm really interested in seeing is the difference between setting up on a corner or an outside, I should say, part of the plate, and just putting the glove in the middle of the damn plate and saying, throw strikes. And that's what they're doing this year. The catchers, whether that be Salvi or Fermin or MJ, set your glove over the middle of the plate. And the pitcher can then work side to side and let his action do that. Because if he misses your glove one way or another, he misses with a strike. If you're setting up on the outside part of the plate and he misses outside, it's a ball. Now we're 1-0 or 2-0. And I remember a story a number of years ago, and this is where Bove comes in, the assistant pitching coach from the Twins. I remember a story a few years ago at spring training, and it was at a minor league spring training. Or actually, it might have been a game, but it was like single A or double A Twins organization. And in the first inning, the catcher went out and was putting his glove on one side of the plate or the other. And the manager called timeout and went out and talked to him. An inning later, he set up on the outside part of the plate. The manager called time and pulled him out of the game. And it was like, that's not what we do. We put the glove over the damn plate, and we let the pitcher throw to the glove. All right? I know that we're in the majors here, and at that point, the minors. But if I'm going to put a paper stamp somewhere, these are the best guys in the world. They're not just going to be able to throw to a paper stamp, okay, on that spot. So we want to give them a wider margin for error. Does that make a difference this year? I don't know. But it seems to work for Tampa Bay and Minnesota in developing their pitchers, as opposed to the Royals in framing and outside part. And they're not very good at framing either. But like, I'm going to set up outside. I'm setting up inside. This is where I'm going to put the glove. Or how late sometimes Salvi puts the glove up. I know that Mike Boddiker's talked about that before. I'm curious in hearing what Mike Boddiker might say about an approach where the catcher just sets up and says, here's the freaking target in the middle of the plate. You're a professional pitcher. Throw to the spot. Let your action do the talking. Let the ball move and saw off some freaking bats here. And stop falling behind 1-0 and 2-0. Fascinated by that part of it.
I think it's really interesting that I think margin for error is the phrase that jumps to mind. And I think that if you, especially with the modern era of baseball, where a fastball is not point A to point B on a straight line, where everything has movement, giving yourself margin for error where maybe that movement ends up making the batter guess a little more because they know where you're aiming for, and then, like you said, let your action do the work for you. I think would be really interesting. And this is way more like, this is a vibe analysis off what you just said, but no, I'm going another level out on vibe check. It's just kind of nice to think like, oh, you know what? Maybe pitchers will get better in the major leagues this time. I haven't actually believed that. I haven't thought that sentence out loud in my head even in a minute now. And just with no guarantees that embracing the numbers or embracing any different strategy is ever guaranteed to have better results. We see teams do this across sports, react one way, overreact the other, and it backfires, whatever. But man, it does feel nice to just have there be a little belief of a breath of fresh air, and you hope that air is properly oxygenated. Then all of a sudden these pitchers can breathe a little.
Videos, analytics, R&D, implementing the analytics, implementing some of the tips, spin rate, whatever it might be, while also a different approach in catchers are just putting their glove over the heart of the plate and letting you do the work to get there and raid the zone. That's going to be the term that's used a lot, and we hear it a lot. They've got the T-shirts out there. Raid the zone.
We got to get some of those T-shirts, right?
I know, right?
Like, we need that,
Raid the zone. We will defend this show, by the way.
Maybe we make Defend the Zone T-shirts.
Raid the zone. Defend the zone. We will fight back. We will not go quietly into the night. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today we celebrate our Independence Day. Raid this, Royals. But I do think that part of it is put the glove over the heart of the plate.
Yeah.
and raid the zone. We're going to attack the zone. We're going to pitch in the freaking strike zone. We're not going to fall behind 1-0 and 2-0. We are not only going to preach first pitch strike, we're going to implement tactics to do that. And it's not lip service. Guys, throw a strike on the first pitch. Oh, thanks, coach. Yeah, I appreciate it, Skip. Yeah.
Actions, words. There's a saying about that. I can't.
It's the guy that walks off the field after dropping. Catch the ball. Yeah, my bad. I should have thought about that.
Yeah.
Why didn't I think of that myself to catch the ball as a wide receiver? You know what? Next time I'm going to do that now that you've coached me up. Thank you for that. Hey, throw a strike. Oh, okay. No. I should have been in the big leagues this long and never thought about that. Huh. Thank you. Yeah, but what can you do to help that along the way? I don't know. Coaching. We'll find out. Maybe they go out there and just continue to get shelled. And it's like, you're just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. But at least you're trying something different to see if you can tap into what they can do. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Lunch provided by the Wiener Wagon today, so I'm looking forward to that. 11 to 1.
Surrounded by tools and wieners.
That's exactly right. You know what? That's a dream.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
913-912-4810. Text wants to know why Leabo's daughter wasn't listening to the show. It's a great question. It's an absolute great question. Text says, Jason Grimsley used to drive me crazy. Throw the ball. There won't be any of that. There won't be any Doug Davis, the human rain delay out there on the mound. No, there's going to be, it's going to be all Mark Burley. It's going to be Mark Burley-esque game in and game out. Eric Bieniemy, we know, is heading to the Commanders. People following him?
Sounds like that could be the case, at least with Greg Lewis. Tom Pelissero tweets, the Commanders have expressed a high level of interest in hiring Greg Lewis to a top spot on new assistant head coach / OC Eric Bieniemy's staff. Per sources, Lewis, the former NFL wide receiver, has coached multiple positions in Kansas City and is well regarded. He's coached both wide receivers and running backs here. I thought he had maybe an outside shot to be the... to maybe even rotate over to quarterbacks, because you see guys get more work at more positions. It tends to bode well for their future as a coordinator. But Greg Lewis looks like he'll follow Bieniemy here, and then definitely ups his chance of being perhaps an offensive coordinator on a team that Eric Bieniemy is the head coach of someday.
Yeah. What would the position be, though? Would he move to quarterbacks coach as being a wide receiver and then also being a running backs coach? Can you make that progression over to the QB's coach, or would you rather have a QB's coach that's somebody that's been a quarterback or been more working with quarterbacks in there?
You can get some sort of title addition, a pass game analyst, run game analyst kind of role. I mean, that the second usually goes to guys in the line more, or even I think Brendan Daly is a run game coordinator for the Chiefs from the defensive side. Let me double check that.
Isn't Girardi the pass game coordinator?
He's assistant quarterbacks and something else.
Pass game coordinator, which is why people have talked about maybe he moves up to quarterbacks coach.
Yeah, Brendan Daly's linebackers and run game coordinator. Right now, Greg Lewis is just running backs coach. So if he gets an "and" in his title, that might help.
But also, he would be with Eric Bieniemy and more of a bigger part of the nucleus of designing an offense.
Absolutely.
Where we know it's Andy Reid and Bieniemy and Matt Nagy and guys like that. And then Greg Lewis was a part of finding and seeing the tendencies of the Eagles of handing off the guys in motion.
Right.
And I think Girardi was a part of Girardi and Greg Lewis were the guys that in scouting and seeing
Girardi as pass game analyst and assistant quarterbacks coach. Also is Adam Teicher's kind of favorite of the in-house candidates at the quarterbacks coach job.
Yeah, I would pass game coordinator and the quarterbacks assistant quarterbacks. I would guess he'd be the QB coach, but maybe that's enticing for Greg Lewis. Now you're a bigger part of that overall offense.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Is this bad still on your side? We can just figure this out as we're here. You can text me your Learn Funniest Best.
It's a little. Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, hanging out with Mick Shaffer here for the final hour of the show. We'll get to Learn Funniest Best in the second segment. Oh, wait, that was Monday. It's Wednesday. Sorry, this is my first time with Mick this week. You know, it's the first time with Mick.
I was saying the Royals pitchers need to spend most of their time in the zone, like Josh Brisco, instead of part of the time in the zone, like Jason Anderson.
that's right. That's right. Regular Mike Greenberg over here.
Did he not show up much either?
He hosts like 20% of his own shows. It's like the Mike Greenberg show. Special guest host is this guy.
Missed that I made a joke, Josh.
He made a joke, Josh. Josh not here. The irony of that is Josh wasn't in the room.
Have our breaks gotten shorter?
No.
I heard the liner playing from the bathroom, walking out of the stall.
No.
I took the
Your
time to
trips
wash
to the
my
bathroom
hands.
have gone longer.
That might be the case. Getting older. I bet your joke was hilarious, Mick. I couldn't hear
It's
it.
really
from
good.
the
I said that Royals pitchers need to spend a lot of time in the zone like Josh Brisco instead of just a little bit of time in the zone like Jason.
Yeah, and I really let you down on that one, just sort of
You weren't
vis-a-vis
here.
my insistence on washing my hands.
Yeah.
I could have been here,
I think,
before you finished that joke if I would have just kept my bathroom hands.
In previous years, I believe
I thought it was worth washing.
The Royals have basically spent about as much time in the zone as I spend in the zone.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
3
right.
out of 5.
An hour every other day.
Yeah, that seems about right.
Well, maybe I was working with the pitchers. Maybe that was their raiding the zone, as they were trying to steal me.
You were actually in Arizona. You weren't sick at all.
They're gonna
that would
raid-
be a surprise.
They're going to raid the zone. Let's steal that guy. Let's bring him in here. He'll tell us all the things of how not to pitch. You know, it didn't take 10,000 tries to make a light bulb. It was just 10,000 tries of how not to make a light bulb.
Right.
That's what it was. Anderson's coming in here just showing us how not to pitch. Eventually, we're going to figure out how to pitch, but based on him being so wrong every time we talk to him. We're going to raid that zone.
Raid the zone.
Raid the zone.
Raid the
damn
zone.
it.
They're not talking about the program.
They're not raiding
saying
the program.
Raid the border patrol. Or
That's
raid
different.
The zone.
That's actually a really different one.
Totally different.
Yeah.
They're down in Arizona, so that might also be what they're discussing, too. Are you heading down to Surprise at all?
I was there the day before the Super Bowl.
Hey!
We drove by, and
Surprise,
I
I
think we
was
kind of
already there.
illegally got into the lot to take some pictures.
Nice.
And so we got some just some shots of. Camp was basically shut down that week, and there were a few people there, but nobody I recognized. Sam Mellinger has his own parking spot. I saw that.
What? Oh, I could retch. That makes
Right?
me sick.
Wow. Boys.
Front office Sam, so we always called him.
Oh my!
Says right there, Sam Milligan. Did you park in his spot?
No.
It would have been great to park in his
hilarious to
spot
take a picture.
with the
Yeah.
KSHB van parking in his spot. Oh, it'd be beautiful.
You throw some.
Just leave some In-N-Out bag of trash there.
That's good. That's good.
Take a picture of it.
A handful of tacks or something.
Yeah, we weren't sure we were supposed to be there, and so we didn't park in like the players' lot. We just parked kind of by the behind home plate, and then walked into the Royals area and took some pictures. They've renovated since I've been there and added some
Been like
buildings.
what, 3-4 years since there's been a regular spring training. Like just your typical, like, hey, here's a spring training like we would have remembered it. I'm imagining now a different world where you get arrested for trespassing and the judge doesn't come in till Monday, and you spend the Super Bowl in the in the clink. In the clink, and you can't cover it or anything.
I would have got more rest.
So trespassing to get some Royals B-roll.
You and Chief Saholic could have had a shared experience of watching a big game behind bars.
Was he out though? I mean, he did tweet.
No,
right?
I think I think the story was that he was asked to pipe down during the AFC Championship game when he was still in prison. I believe that was what was in that ESPN story.
Yeah,
I will admit that I'm not fully up to date on my Chief Saholic news.
But wasn't there? It was like he was trying to get a release to Arizona so he could go to the game. But then he also tweeted after the game.
If the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, he was going to have enough money for bail, right?
Yeah. That's what I thought too. Like,
yeah.
The New York Times did a full piece on him. True story.
Yeah, it was fascinating.
And it was actually kind of a sad deal.
Yeah.
How he grew up and everything.
Yeah, it was. It took a lot of the fun air out of the sails.
It did, but I got over it, and I kind of focused on he used his mask maybe to rob a bank.
Typically, ending up in prison has a sad turn somewhere along the line.
Yeah. Sometimes you look away from it.
That's what happens there.
Yeah.
We talked with Todd Leabo in the previous hour. They are heading back now, Todd and Soren, after today's show. They will be flying back just in time for the cold weather here in KC, so that's good for them. I'm happy that they're able to take part in missing the nice days here and coming back. It's like 70 in Surprise. That's 65 here.
Yeah, we're same degrees here.
Yeah, well,
next week's gonna be nice as well. So I'm hoping that the spring's gonna arrive a little
Spring
early.
will be sprung. Well, no, it's 6 more weeks because
Groundhog spoke.
Groundhog is
When was
never
the last time the
wrong.
Groundhog did not see his shadow?
But doesn't when the groundhog come out, see everybody and be like, holy bleep, and then go right back in? It's like, oh, he saw a shadow. No, he saw a bunch of humans standing around and didn't want to go outside of his home.
He's trained by now. He's like a pet, basically.
Oh, hey, guys, you here? Is that time already? Boy, I feel like every day's the
Why do
same
you only
for
let
me.
me out once a year?
I feel like every day is the same for me, guys, but I guess you guys are here today, so good to see you. Hey, you've put on some pounds. How's the family? Great. Your daughter, she is in high school already?
Ned Ryerson? Phil Connors?
Needham knows Ned the head.
Watch out, that first step, it's a doozy.
Doozy.
Well, you know a movie.
I know. I could do Groundhog Day quotes with you all day, man. I love it. I couldn't even get Renee to rewatch it with me this Groundhog Day, so this is at least a year old of refreshing
Did she
lines and everything.
not want to because it would have been the same movie? She just
We've
watched?
seen it a few times. We also watched Princess Bride on Valentine's Day, and she made that tradition continue this year. So
That's good.
Those two I'm up to date on. What did you think about the Prince Humperdinck / the little prince from Shrek being basically the same guy across two movies?
Oh, yeah, I never thought about that, but they weren't they?
I tweeted that out on Valentine's Day, a picture of Prince Humperdinck and a picture of Lord Farquaad.
Yeah.
Couple of the greatest names in cinematic history.
Yes.
And it really is, there's a lot of shared DNA. I was Googling it thinking it was going to be really obvious. That it'd be like, oh yeah, it was like an homage to Prince Humperdinck. And I could find very little on it. And so I feel like I'm trying to now get that narrative out
Well,
there.
I wonder if that's just like a movie trope, right? Where all princes are spoiled little brats, right? And arrogant. But Prince Humperdinck is one of the greatest villains in the history of cinema.
Also,
you're just short on evidence there.
Also, Joffrey,
It's a real Humperdinck move, man.
Mm-hmm. So Mick Shaffer's hanging out with us here for the hour.
Just
Maybe we'll
trying
get
to
some shot clock
derail this
reviews
hour.
on Humperdinck.
We can do that.
Put out the Royals and Chiefs talk as long as possible.
We're going to have a lot of free time.
We'll get to a Friday in April.
Let's go ahead and do that. Greg Gurley was texting with Fran Fraschilla last night while Fran Fraschilla was trying to work. I bet Greg doesn't like when people text him in the middle of his broadcast.
Wait, what game was Fran doing last
I
night?
don't. You want to find that out for us?
He did the K-State game last night. Okay.
So he was because Fran Fraschilla put up his Big 12 Coach of the Year finalists, and Fran's did not have Bruce Weber, so we can't ask Fran Fraschilla about it. He had T.J. Otzelberger, Jerome Tang, and Rodney Terry. Texas, K-State, Iowa State. Iowa State was picked 8th. They're like 5th. K-State was picked 10th. They're like 3rd. And then Rodney Terry. Difficult circumstances for him to slide into at Texas and then have them tied for first right now, even though they were a team that was picked.
I don't know how it's not Jerome Tang. I don't know how
I agree.
you vote for anybody
right.
else.
Greg Gurley was texting it.
Is Greg's point it should be Bill Self?
Greg's point was he's not even a part of the discussion. Like that was not, hey, Bill Self has to win it. It's they lost everybody.
Yeah.
And they're currently in first because they got the tiebreaker over that team.
And yes, he has great players, but he's the one that goes and gets those great players.
And he had to restructure everything. And hey, you remember the team that they played in the national championship that's not in Joe Lunardi's bracket, the latest bracket?
Yeah.
North Carolina fell off the bubble and is outside. Remember that team? And they didn't lose nearly as much as KU. It was just a conversation of like, hey, why wouldn't he be in the discussion? And I don't disagree. And Fran's 3 are kind of the 3 that most everybody like.
I could easily replace Self, Terry with Self. If I'm looking at that list.
And Otzelberger, I probably could.
Yeah, the shine's wearing off that. He's in the middle of the road Iowa State team in the
Naismith National Coach of the Year 3 or 4 days ago put out their 10 finalists. Now they actually announce they put out the watch list 10 finalists. Sorry, they announced the 10 finalists on like March 7th. So you don't have to be a part of the 10 finalists on the watch list to be actually part of that.
You can be a late ad.
You can be a late ad. These are just the ones that it's like right now, if the finalists came out, these would be the 10.
I feel like it's too late to add somebody. You should know.
It would be tough.
The bulk of the season, we've seen it.
It would be tough.
Make a decision.
Yeah, but there are 3 Big 12 coaches out of the 10, Otzelberger, Tang, and Rodney Terry. So not a surprise that then Fran Fraschilla would have that. But the common conversation we have about like Coach of the Year in the conferences is, well, it's always going to be the
who
coach.
exceeds expectations the most, and that's going to be you're looking at a K-State team that could very well finish 3rd in the conference, get 10th. Like a 4th seed in the tournament, and they're picked 10th.
But the Big 12 hasn't really been that. That was what's been surprising with me looking at the last 3 years, because they were talking about it last night. Scott Drew, 3 straight years being the Big 12 Coach of the Year, which shows how much I pay attention to the Big 12 Coach of the Year awards, because I realized last night that he's won 3 consecutive Big 12 Coach of the Year awards. Bill Self has 6, so it's not like Bill Self has never won one. He's got 6. But
I mean,
Beard had back-to-back, and then now it's 3 in a row for Scott Drew.
What's the ratio of titles won by Scott Drew and Coach of the Years won by Scott Drew and titles won by Bill Self?
Well, I bet the titles are more than the
3
Coach
to 1
of the,
probably
yes,
titles to
for
Coach
sure.
of the Years for Self.
So I was surprised by this. So 2020 preseason rankings, Baylor was picked to finish 2nd, and they finished 2nd, and Scott Drew was Coach of the Year. 2021 preseason, they were picked 1st, and they finished 1st, and Scott Drew was Coach of the Year. Last year, they were picked 3rd, and they finished 1st. Scott Drew was Coach of the Year. 3 years he's been Coach of the Year. Out of all 3 years, they've only finished higher than what they were projected one time. And that was from 3rd to 1st. That was shocking to me, because then if we're doing that, if the Big 12 has essentially said, no, it doesn't have to be the coach that's exceeded our expectations. It can be the coach that we just think has done the best job. Well, then Bill Self should absolutely be in the conversation of Big 12 Coach of the Year if we've shown over the last 5 years, well, 6 years, because Bill Self won it, and then Beard back-to-back, and then 3 straight for Scott Drew, that it's like, no, this guy's a pretty damn good coach, and he's winning the conference, and he's going to win Coach of the Year.
When did Beard bow out of this season? When did Terry officially take over? Was it December?
Early.
Was it before that?
I feel like it was like the 2nd or 3rd game.
Yeah, okay, that early.
He
So
was
it's been
officially
most of the year.
Beard was officially fired on January 5th here. I'm
But
still
he had
checking to
been not
see
coaching for a while,
For a
right?
bit, yeah. December 12th, he was arrested.
Yeah, so
that was
roughly
they were
the
8
first
games
month
in.
of the season.
They were 7-1. They had just played, because it was like a Monday night game, and he wasn't playing in it because or whatever. He wasn't coaching in it, but they played on the 10th, and that was their 7th one. So they were 7-1. So 8 games in to the season is when Rodney Terry took over. They are
And they had played
22-6.
They played Gonzaga and Creighton in that stretch, Illinois. But I mean, we're talking about all before conference play.
I mean, here's the case for Tang. I think it's a short one and an easy one. In the toughest conference in the country, and maybe the toughest the Big 12 has ever been. I mean, you could literally say since in the millennium, this is the toughest conference ever. In the last 23 years. In college basketball, he exceeds expectations by 7 spots.
Yeah,
from 10th to 3rd. Yeah, I'm with everybody. Self should always be in consideration. I mean, he's the president, CEO, GM, coach of the Kansas Jayhawks. And
but if it wasn't for seeing that with Scott Drew last night, I would have been like,
the winning coach every year, then. Yeah. I'm fine with that. If that's your, because you can make a great argument that that's who should win it every year.
I wasn't really considering Bill Self until seeing that last night. And again, that's just, we have so much focus when it comes to the Chiefs at the end of the season and then free agency and all that stuff. And then the awards go out and I'm like, oh, yeah, the guy won Coach of the Year in the conference. Who cares? The Coach of the Year in the conference is always going to be the guy who exceeded the expectations. Oh, you were picked 7th and you finished 3rd. Well, we weren't wrong. You just had a hell of a year coaching. Yeah. So here's your award. But the Big 12 voting has proven that they don't hand out awards based on it's just simply you've exceeded expectations. But Jerome Tang is different. In that they were picked 10th and you didn't know what K-State was going to be. And they've been freaking good this year.
Yeah, and a lot of times the expectations are just set wrong, right? And and people have perceptions of schools of like Kansas and Texas and Baylor, okay, they should win all the time. And, look, Iowa State over here. I'm going to mess up his hair. Look at K-State. Hey, guy.
K-State's the 3 seed in the Big 12 tournament right now.
Right now.
They're the 3 seed in the Big 12 tournament.
And so a lot of times we – like in this case with Kansas State this year, overlook they got the best transfer in the country. I saw a list from one of the sites today of top 10 transfers in college basketball this year. It was Keontae Johnson by a mile over the next guy, I think, for Providence, and a couple of those. Ricky Council from Wichita State to Arkansas, but nobody has had the impact of Keontae Johnson. And there's the development of Marquise Noel and some of the other pieces they brought in, and Gasson and Cam Carter and Sills and all these guys. I mean, it would have. I mean, look, it would have been a guess, and you had to do some real research. But I think if we would have paid a little more attention to K-State, you wouldn't have picked them last. And I didn't vote, so I'm going to say you guys.
Yeah,
you guys.
I didn't vote either. I didn't have a vote. They didn't ask me.
They don't ask me. I'm too smart. I tell myself.
But I would have totally picked K-State last. Would have absolutely picked K-State last.
I would have picked them in a tie for 3rd in late February. Right now.
But also, like, if you look at it heading into this year, like, okay, realistically, where would you have put K-State from where they were last year to then losing Pack?
Everybody's new. Everybody's new from coaching staff on down.
Jerome Tang has no experience as a head coach in the college
and
level.
Ish Massoud are back, right? That's basically it.
You going to pick them ahead of Texas Tech? No. I mean, you're going to pick them ahead of West Virginia and Bob Huggins?
Maybe West Virginia and Oklahoma.
But you're talking about a coach that's been there, done that. We don't even know what Jerome Tang is going to be. Oklahoma's got a Final Four coach, in Porter Moser. Iowa State has a Sweet 16 coach in TJ Otzelberger. TCU's got Jamie Dixon and was good last year. And then you got Baylor and Texas and Kansas and Oklahoma State. Like, where, if you weren't going to pick them 10th, like, who you would have to then
lost a lot too.
Yeah, you would have to say this team is going to be worse than K-State, even with the transfers coming in, knowing that one of the big conversations was Nigel Pack getting $800,000 to go to Miami to leave K-State, and then K-State not getting, was it Antoine Davis from Detroit, who's now chasing Pistol Pete's record for points. Yeah, he needs like 30
a game.
Done
this year?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Hey,
I'm on it.
Johnny Keyboard on it over here.
Johnny Keys.
I haven't really cared about Miami this year, except for when they played North Carolina.
I'm usually a Miami basketball stan.
Right? Yeah. You're like the son that Jim Larrañaga never had.
That's it.
Or wanted.
13.5 points per game, about 3 rebounds a game, 2.5 assists.
How many points? 13.
13.6 points per game.
In a bad ACC.
Yeah, it's not. I mean,
but Miami's
not bad.
Miami's what, tied for first? We were going through the.
They're first
earlier.
with Virginia. They're either tied for first or second.
They're tied with Virginia, but they played 2 more games.
He was at least like a 16 or 17 points per game guy last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
K-State.
So, like, I don't think it was blasphemous that it was like K-State was picked 10th, but it's also a credit to what Jerome Tang has done. Like, if we say, like, we thought K-State was going to be this before the season, well, then how surprised should we be that what Jerome Tang is doing now? If we say, well, K-State was going to be 5th or 6th, you got to really look at everything. Honestly, looking at everything, I didn't expect much from K-State this year in the Big 12 because of the players that were returning to some of the schools, but also then you had coaches that had been there and done that. And there was an unknown. You move over one seat, that 1 foot is a huge difference. 1 seat to the left or right, depending on which bench you're sitting on the scores table, is a huge move. And he has just killed it, just absolutely killed it. And he has killed the curve for every other first-year coach and what the expectations could be.
And look, he weathered the storm, too, because what did they lose? They lost, I'm trying to look, like 5 of 6 in conference play, I believe.
They were. Well,
the one that win was against TCU, who was neutered at that point. Their 2 best players weren't playing.
And then they
got blown out by Oklahoma.
They had 1 win against Florida mixed in there.
Right,
so,
mixed in there. But in conference, I think it was 5 or 6. And so at that point, I mean, in this league, they could have very easily nosedived to 8th, right? And these last 2 games, he's picked it up, and just that Baylor win was so big.
Well, they were down by 8 at halftime to Iowa State. So they had been 1-5 in their previous 6 games in the Big 12, and they were down by 8 to Iowa State.
Down by 3 last night?
Yeah.
Both games were 34-31 at the half. I had them on
exactly.
TVs next to
I
each
noticed
other.
that too because they were talking about the stat that Mizzou hasn't won a game when they've scored less than 34 points in the first half, and they were down 34-31. I'm like, well, I guess if you're going to break it, and they did.
God, I thought they were going to lose it so many
times. It took overtime,
game.
and it took a lot of crazy. It took Noah Carter and Nick Honor hitting threes, and Kobe Brown missing a layup, and
wide open
layup. Like I said earlier in the show.
Well, I don't think he had control of it, and he's worried about taking time to get control because there's only 2 seconds.
I said earlier, I'm like, he makes the next 19 of those and ends up 19 of 20 on those shots. But it would have been the perfect Missouri way to lose. The only thing that would have been more perfect is if they were down 1 and he missed that layup and they lost by 1 instead of winning.
Hey, you think of those 3 buzzer beaters, and I'll count that as a buzzer beater last night.
They were down 1?
Those 3 games are the difference right now between being, I don't know, a 9 seed or something like that. Where do we have Mizzou and being out of the tournament?
Bracket matrix, I think. It depends on when it was updated. I looked at it this morning and it wasn't updated for today, and they were like an 8 seed.
Nice.
But let me see if it's been updated.
We were talking yesterday, like what seeds everybody was going to get, and I got to Mizzou, and I was like, you know what? I think they're in, but they don't need to bring their road jerseys or their home jerseys.
That's
exactly
right.
Don't bring your whites. No need
to. So it's still not updated today at Bracket Matrix, and they're an 8 seed in the collective 114 brackets that Bracket Matrix is using.
That got us talking about when I think 2018 when K-State was a 9 seed, they played Creighton, and they went to the tournament, and then the UMBC got the upset. They had them. I think they had the team managers were just celebrated because they actually brought the home whites.
It would have been like when the Chiefs were playing New England, and at the last second the truck arrived and they're running in there with all the bags and everything. It would have been that getting ready with the home whites. Yeah, I don't think the Tigers. Well,
Bruce,
I mean,
Bruce
you can knock off the 1
would have
seed.
barked at Todd Leabo like Andy Reid did.
That's exactly right. The deal. If you're going to get the deal, it's why are you worried about this? You're focusing on the wrong things.
I thought both last night was just kind of simultaneous huge wins because they were playing teams right at their level. Right, for K-State, it's okay to get a leg up, and you're not worried about the NCAA tournament. But I mean, Baylor's right there. You have a chance to sweep them. Now you're tied with them. And then Mississippi State, they're the same as Missouri, and it's a team that basically over the years has gotten Missouri.
2018.
They beat Missouri on the regular basis.
2018 was the last time the Missouri beat Mississippi State.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And they still play them every year, twice a year, right?
At least once.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that every year is if they're
it might not be twice. But it's twice this year.
Yes.
They had already lost to them, right?
It is twice. And Texas A&M, they lost a couple of times too. But yeah, 2018 for Mississippi State, like that was shocking to see that. But I always feel like they lose to them, so it's not like that surprise. Like, man, they certainly do lose a lot to Mississippi State.
Looks like
every
7
year.
games in a row there on that streak.
Over 7.
So
Yeah. Other than that,
I don't
probably
remember beating them in football either.
No, well, that'd be an issue too, because they don't win a lot of games in football.
It does mean more
either.
It's important.
Well, it meant more last night because they.
But again, that's a huge loss for Mississippi State, right?
Yes.
They're probably outside the bubble now and could have been inside it with a win. And
it's a backdoor route for Mizzou to get a double bye in the SEC tournament. I mean, the number 4 seed's still open for Mizzou with 3 games to go. Like, I mean, if they could be
it's Bama and A&M. And I think I looked. The
Tennessee,
next 9 teams,
Kentucky.
9 teams are separated by 3 games.
Yeah, Kentucky and then Tennessee, Auburn, Vandy, Arkansas, Mizzou, all right there. I did the math that if Vandy loses once, if Auburn loses twice, Tennessee loses once.
Are you going to get to Mizzou winning 3 times?
Mizzou has to win all 3. Okay. That's the prerequisite. But like, not all of those things have to happen. It's like 2 of
their schedule.
2 of the other 4 all winnable. There's 2 on the road, but they're playing Georgia and LSU and Ole Miss the final 3 games. Like, those are teams that are ranked in the 100s in Ken Pom. Whether you're on the road or at home, you should win those 3. And again, you need 2 of like the 4 to happen, of like Vanderbilt losing once, Kentucky to lose once, Auburn to lose twice, Tennessee to lose once, because you'd have the tiebreaker.
If they get to that 4 seed in the SEC tournament, give Dennis Gates the add-in on the Coach of the Year.
Well, he's in that.
He's in it already.
He's in the.
I believe he should be on the kind of that second tier of guys.
There's 2 SEC coaches, and it was kind of a jumping off point to a conversation we had earlier in the show that the Naismith Coach of the Year watch list, there were 2 coaches from the SEC, Dennis Gates and Nate Oates.
Yeah,
and we kind of talked like, is Nate Oates kind of I don't know that he's taken off the watch list, but there might be a number of people that are like, I can vote for this other guy and have.
He's got other stuff to deal with.
Yeah,
I don't want to give him a trophy.
I've got a very reasonable other person to vote for that is not. How did you not vote for him? Nate Oates, I was gonna, but maybe I go with.
It's all the same. I'll just go.
I'm gonna go Kelvin Sampson on this one. I think they've been number 1 in the season all year, so I mean they've been pretty good. It's probably might be the number 1 overall seed, something like that.
How crazy is it that would it be Houston and Alabama and Purdue combined have 20 quad 1 wins, and KU by themselves has 14?
It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, but it's also the Big 12. It's when you get 11 wins in the Big 12. Like, there's going to be a number of quad 1 wins mixed in there.
Pretty much. I mean, every road win is going to be 1. Almost every home game is going to be 1.
Yeah. KU right now at Bracket Matrix is the 3rd number 1 seed. So Alabama, Houston, KU, Purdue are the 4 1 seeds.
Yeah, I see Alabama. I don't know about Houston. They just the AC's bad. They don't have those. I mean, they have 4, I think, quad 1 wins.
Yeah.
Just the schedule. I think
I
wouldn't mind them being dinged.
Yeah, I mean,
especially considering the Final 4 at their place. But I mean, even with
not their place, but it's in Houston.
Even with KU's gonna have the Sweet 16 at their place. Kind of.
Yeah, that's true. That's their place east.
Yeah,
but like Houston, from their place to where it's being played is probably an hour and a half away from it feels like that in Houston because everything's so damn spread out. Ugh, Final 4 in Houston. The hell.
Yeah, that's a sad downtown.
Ugh.
There's a couple of good areas there, but
yeah. The thing that's helping them is Virginia's turned it on. St. Mary's is number 8 in Ken Pom.
Oh, really?
They beat St. Mary's by 5 in a semi-home game. But other than that, they lost Alabama by 6. They have a bad loss in Temple on their resume.
Yeah, I mean, look, if KU runs the table, that's going to mean a win over Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you get 2 more. I mean, knock off 2 more big boys in the tournament, in the Big 12 tournament. They're, by big boys being quad 1 teams, they probably will be because those will be neutral site games. What is it, top 50 neutral site? If you beat a top 50 team on a neutral site, it's a quad 1 win? Is it 25, 50, and 75 or something like that?
Top 75 neutral site, top 50 on the road.
Gotcha, okay. So all your Big 12 wins are going to be top
that.
75 wins.
It's been so long since I've done the bracket breakdown.
I thought the quad
I'm
one
looking
wins were just when the smoke comes out of
That's
the
right.
top of the arena. That was a quad
That
one
was one.
win, and that way I don't have to. I can track them. I don't have to know how they happen.
No, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Pythagorean theorem, and I was never very good at any of that.
Pythagorean. That's exactly right. Yes, the two-step flow. Got that to worry about as well.
A squared and B squared and quad one. I can't remember.
Yeah, Kansas has 16 quad 1 and quad 2 wins. They are 16 and
There's
5.
a quad 2?
Yeah, I think there are 14 of
Well,
those
no,
are
no,
quad
that's,
1, right?
Yeah, no, that's actually not true.
How many quads are there? If you say 4, I'm going to lose my mind.
There's 1,000.
What
of
if
them.
there were like 7 quads?
I think there
Wait
should
a
be.
second.
Yeah, I think there should be like 15
Actually,
quads.
not true. I need to update this.
That's like my daughter sometimes will be at my son's basketball game. She'll be like,
there we go.
Is this the third half or the fourth half? I'm like,
no, they're 18.
Honey, there's
18
only
and
2
5
halves,
now.
but I get it. It feels like there's been like 4.
That really, yeah. That sometimes you got to just announce the third half.
It's weird. Needed to update that page, but 18 and 5 are they as Kansas in quad 1 and quad 2. I mean, just 18 wins.
Okay, so they have 5 wins that are not a quad 1 or quad 2 win. Let's go ahead and find all of those. Don't look it up. Let's just sort of
2
derive
quad
it.
3s and 3
Omaha,
quad 4s.
North Dakota State, Southern Utah. Those are tournament teams, right?
Let me see what their team sheet is.
North Dakota State could be, I guess, maybe in the Summit League.
I really
this is
haven't
not-
been as plugged into North Dakota State basketball
Hey,
as I
that's
usually
that's
am.
UMKC's league. Sorry, it's Kansas City's league. Not
Thank
UMKC.
you.
Come on, man.
Branding
it's
is
the
so
entire city's league.
That
Houston,
rebranding is going along very slowly, by the way.
Houston has 12 quad 1 and quad 2 wins, but 8 of them in the quad 2.
Yeah, I was gonna say that
they're
only
4 and
4.
1 in
Yes.
in quad
Those quad
1.
2s out of here.
Yeah.
How are your quads, Mick?
Those are here, right?
Yeah, how are they? Yeah. That's the big ones.
Typically.
Yeah.
They are great because I don't run. That's the one way to keep your quads from tightening up. Do not exercise.
It's so crazy, like looking through
That's a quad 2 win.
like if you look through the quadrant
what?
1 wins, and just like, so you go down, there's 4, 7, 6, 4, 9, 14. Oh, that's a Big 12 school. 2, 10, Big 12 school. 6, 3, 6, 9, Big 12 school.
I think the
5,
only, I think,
4,
is
4,
it Purdue
3,
the only
2.
one close to like? I think Texas and Baylor are right there in second, and then KU.
Purdue has 9. They're
Purdue's had a
2
good
teams with
schedule.
double digits, and that's KU and Texas.
And I think Alabama's got like 7 or something like
And then
that.
Iowa State and Kansas State both have 8. Baylor has 9. But just going through here, it's like,
That's
oh,
how,
yeah, number 20,
that's how
number
like
21,
Oklahoma
25.
was like in the tournament until last night, right? They probably had 5 or 6 themselves.
It's been crazy. It's been an amazing. I can't wait for the tournament. I mean, the tournament here, the Big 12 tournament, it's just going to be.
I know
nuts.
it's going to be great, and then all 3 are going to kind of go out to their outposts, and then the tournament's going to come back here.
That's right.
And Sweet 16 and Elite 8, and you're most likely going to have KU
Mm-hmm.
here, and probably not the others.
You won't have K-State certainly, but you could have Missouri here.
I think K-State could get a 4 seed in the Des Moines. Go to
Yeah.
Des Moines. Because that's
Yeah.
the closest, right? But being a different pod, obviously, than
you can't be
KU.
you can't be a region here, so they won't be able to play the Sweet 16 Elite 8 here if KU is. But Missouri could because they're different conferences. So the top 4 seeds,
KU and K-State could not. Yes, right. Yes.
The top 4 seeds have to go to other. So, but I mean, if K-State is
But
the
I mean,
fifth
in Des Moines,
school,
there's going to be like a Midwest pod and like an
for
East
sure.
pod, right?
Yep,
So-
absolutely. But if K-State is the 5th school out of the Big 12, then they can put them in Kansas City.
Yes.
They actually would put them in Kansas City because it's the
But I don't
closest.
think they're going to be that. I think they're 4 at worst.
Yeah.
Just kind of where they're at now.
But I mean,
with the
sort of
schedule.
depends on what they end up being. But there, I guess I shouldn't say that KU and K-State won't
They're
be
9 and
I mean, they
9 and 6, right?
Yep.
They could absolutely be the.
I think if you get one more win, you get 10. I don't think you're going to be worse than 4th.
So fourth, because KU, Texas, and Baylor, if they get selected, I'm not saying that Baylor is going to be selected above Kansas State. I'm saying, like, if we're saying, can they be the 5th school selected, therefore they could come to Kansas City? You would need Iowa State and TCU.
I don't think you don't want that for K-State.
No.
Even if it's close by, it means you're
No.
running into KU, and it
Right.
means you've dropped a couple more games, and it means a harder path.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you just go somewhere else. But Missouri could be here.
Go to Vegas. That's a fun place, right? Isn't that a site this year? Vegas is hosting everything. We hated
Where
it.
are
It
those
was
games being
scorned.
played? Is that in like the Golden Knights arena? Can they? How big is the capacity on that? Is there one I'm missing? An
I don't
obvious
think
one?
it's UNLV because that's not big enough.
Yeah, I'm guessing the hockey one's probably not big enough either, but they usually
don't
try to
think
go
it
newer
is?
stadiums. I'm not sure.
Well, most hockey in NBA arenas are like 20,000, right? 18 to 20.
Yeah, let's see here.
It is Vegas, right? The West.
So, according to Bracket
They're not
Matrix,
putting it in the
Allegiant?
They're not putting it in Allegiant, are they? They've done football stadium.
So yeah, they've done domes.
But they're
and
doing the
football stadiums
Final
and stuff like that.
Four in
Houston.
No,
And
I know. Vegas
be in
Vegas
Allegiant.
is getting the Final Four. I'm just trying to see what.
Oh, okay.
I'm guessing that would have to be Allegiant.
That'd have to be Allegiant.
Yeah. Yes, at that point.
Yeah, they always do the big stadiums for that and figure it
The
out.
Final Four will be in 2028 in Vegas, which yes will be in Allegiant. I'm just saying that's still a ways on the line.
So, according to Bracket Matrix, Kansas is the first Big 12 school. Texas is the second Big 12 school. Baylor is the third. K-State and Iowa State right next to each other. So that would be, right now K-State is the fourth, Iowa State is the fifth. So they're both 3 seeds. So K-State, in theory, you flip those. If Kansas, Texas,
I think K-State goes 2-1.
Yeah.
And maybe 3.
But then what happens in the Big 12? Like if Iowa State were to pass them up, they could be the 5th school taken out of the Big 12, and then they would be sent here. Now, if they are a 4 seed here, that could be an amazing Sweet 16. Almost said Final Four, but no, that could be an amazing Sweet 16 if it's 1v4.
It's funny. It's going to be like
if that's a Sweet 16.
It's going to be like Texas and KU in the 1 and 2 lines, right?
Yeah.
And then you're going to have like 6 other Big 12s from like 4 to 6, right? I mean, they're just going to fill up those lines.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
I got to put a bow on the Vegas thing here before we take our break.
Okay.
It is in, stick with me, everybody, T-Mobile Arena.
Oh, big difference.
Which is where the Golden Knights play, and it looks like they could get close 18,000 seating capacity
What
for
usually
basketball
those are.
there. So,
Yeah.
they are going to the hockey stadium.
Yeah, and that wouldn't be the center of that place. It would just be an arena.
That's not the center.
No, the center would be around here right
Well,
now.
I remember.
right, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I've been to it before, back when it was called Sprint Arena.
I'm just going to continue to call it Sandstone.
I thought you were going to throw the break.
Mick Shaffer in the Zone is brought to you by Atomic Cowboy Sports Saloon, home of the 2-story biscuit sandwiches from Denver Biscuit Company all morning, New York-style hand-tossed pizza all afternoon and evening from Fat Sully's, and 20 beers on tap all the time. Experience it today at 42nd and Pennsylvania in Westport.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Is Mick Shaffer a legend in KU journalism school?
Literally didn't know he went to KU.
Nobody ever asked me back. Everybody else gets asked back. I don't.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Some shot clock reviews today. It's been a while. It's been a while since we reviewed stuff, you know? I don't know.
When's the last Wednesday all three of us were in? All four of us.
Wow,
Oh, my goodness, man.
Jason's right here, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm
leave me out
clearly
of
the
it.
fourth wheel.
No. I think everyone should. I think everyone can agree you're the second wheel, but then everything around that gets really contentious.
That's probably right. So, yes, it's been a while, is what we're saying. We have 24 seconds to give a review over anything that we damn well choose. And if we go over, then the shot clock buzzes and we all get tomatoes thrown
And
at us.
Beards tases us with the. We've built a rich fiction. I mean, told the truth about a taser caller today. So
I want to be tased.
Me too. Me too.
Josh is in line to get tased.
I am in line to get tased because I said before the 2020 draft that if the Chiefs took a running back in the first round, I'd be shocked, and you could do it literally. Yeah. And I haven't paid off on that because then there was the pandemic, and then I almost died.
You can't get tased in a pandemic?
Well,
Who wrote those rules?
Well, because Seth got to come down from Minnesota, and he said that he wouldn't tase me until Renee and my mom signed off on it, and they both have, obviously. They both would rather them do it themselves, so... I still have to get tased. And also, the fun thing is that I'll get tased after Clyde Edwards-Helaire is probably not even a Chief anymore. Think about that cycle.
I mean, you wasn't even at the parade,
Think about
right?
how long I put that off.
Be one now. Speaking of Arizona, down at spring training one year, my buddy who used to work with me at Metro Sports, I won't say his name, even though he probably really wants me to. He had convinced a cop that was just on duty down there, a security, to tase him. And he's like, all right. Tomorrow, I'll tase you. And it was such a big deal. I was going to get video of it and everything, and Corey brought an extra pair of shorts because he knew he was going to piss himself.
I'm glad we haven't said this guy's name yet.
Yeah, thank goodness we didn't say his name. Yeah.
And we got there, the cop's like, sorry, I talked to my supervisor. I can't do it. Like,
Beg for forgiveness.
We knew that. You asked for forgiveness.
Yes, don't ask
We're
for
gonna
permission.
tell anybody?
That seems like an excuse. That seems like in the moment he was like, yeah, let's do it. I'm a cool guy now. And then the next day he's like, oh, wait, I really don't want to get fired.
And the guy whose name won't be mentioned again, Corey said, I'm totally fine with it. And he would have totally been on board.
Yeah, just just sign off on something.
He didn't even sign
disclosure.
I was there as a witness.
Yeah.
He brought brought another pair of shorts.
All right, shot clock review. Who wants to start us off here?
Beards, you ready? Beards don't know what we're doing, but Beards needs to go first.
You did say Beards, you have to go first. So Beards has the first possession.
Excuse me.
So Beards.
Go ahead and clear your throat right into the microphone.
Get it rolling. Ready?
All right, I'm good. So we all, Josh and I, and several other people went and saw the new Ant-Man and the Wasp movie last week. So I'm going to talk about that.
Not with him, though.
No, Mick wasn't there. I think I'm kind of just burnt out on our Marvel movies in general. I know this has been happening for a little bit, but this was kind of the one that really sealed it for me. It was a fine movie. It looked visually amazing. The jokes just kind of didn't do it for me as much as this one. The villain was very good, but I think I'm just kind of not done with Marvel movies. I'll still watch some of them when I'm dragged to see them. Not dragged, but it was fine. It was like a 6.5 out of 10.
You gave mostly, rave reviews there. You only said one negative thing, the jokes.
It was just kind of okay.
It's really more about Beards. That was a shot clock review of Beards' own doneness.
I mean, they all take us the similar arc, right? All of them.
I'll go next because I like to go ahead and do a shot clock review of what I'm actually now calling Ant-Man and the Wasp Quad One Mania. So it was really beautiful, right? Quantum Mania is the actual title. It was basically if Marvel did a Star Wars movie. Like, that was generally the aesthetic and some of the character choices. And also, it felt like they were kind of caught, maybe fittingly, kind of between worlds of wanting to wrap up some stuff with Ant-Man and all of that and also open up the next phase of the MCU. And I just got to decide if I'm ready to buckle up for Phase 4 or whatever it is that we're on. I enjoyed it for 2 hours. I don't know that I'm ready for all the Marvel to follow. I'm going to go ahead and top Beards. I'll say 7 out of 10. It was a fun movie. It was fun.
We'll see. I mean, did you feel like you wasted your time while you were there?
It was a great movie to eat popcorn and watch for 2 hours.
So there you go. Seems like, mission accomplished.
Was it only 2 hours?
2 hours and like 5 minutes, I think.
Really,
yeah,
that's it? It's not like the
it was,
short for a Marvel
It was
movie.
a tight Marvel movie.
I was
Yeah,
gonna say,
for
it's
sure.
It's not like the. I know it's not Marvel, but not like the 3.5 hour Avatar.
No, that
way,
would have been
the
a
way,
lot.
The way
harder
of
for me.
water. No, I need the way to water
I
so I
need
can
to
rehydrate.
make water.
I've been here 3 hours.
Yes, I'm dying. I'm
Okay.
hallucinating. Who wants to go next between you guys?
It's a great question.
I gotta pass the ball. Mick seems pretty ready. I'm
Mick's
gonna
ready.
pass it to Mick.
Let's go. So I'm gonna do Whoa! I announced.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
Beards gave himself like a 45-second
mine's
run
gonna
up.
be, it's gonna be really tight.
You're gonna have to blow the whistle. Blow the whistle here. Look over to the scores table. We need to reset the shot clock.
Yeah, and I'll give you the. I'll pump it up when we're ready.
Reset
Okay.
the play clock.
On my wine.
On his
Okay.
whistle.
Okay. I'm gonna do a review of the thousands of the hundreds of PR emails I got in and around the Super Bowl. This is the best one. Hi, Mick. My name is Molly, and I work for the underwear brand Shinesty. I saw your coverage from the Waste Management Open and thought you might be interested in some news on the mulleted streaker, Max Savage. Since Mr. Savage was detained while wearing Shinesty's own denim dong sarong, we feel partly responsible and decided to reimburse Savage's bail and help him with administrative court fees. Please see the press release below.
Incredible.
I forwarded on my entire staff and said, absolutely, we need to do a story on the denim dong sarong.
They've got some great designs.
Have you heard of this
I
brand?
have heard of this brand.
I've never heard of them.
I've heard of a lot of
And
online
then
underwear
I did
brands.
see the streaker. He was mulleted.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
he
yeah.
had like a sarong on.
Okay. Yeah. No, that is a different meaning to waste management.
It is.
So
I think it's bold of them to so freely use the word streaker with an underwear ad. It just there's a lot of negatives.
I like, yeah.
connotations.
They're bold with their image
Yes.
in their PR.
Yes.
And she signed it, "Stay weird and shine on." Molly.
Beautiful.
I want to meet her. I give it a 10.
Stay weird and was she living in Austin? Probably. All right, so I'm going to do my shot clock review on a movie that people were making fun of when we saw the name of it, to then I actually enjoyed it. My shot clock review is on the movie Plane with Gerard Butler.
Yes.
I watched it in while I was in and out of consciousness over the weekend. I enjoyed it. I know it's a dumb name, just Plane. The plane crashes. Shocker. Crashes on an island. Turns out there's a lot of bad people on this island, so maybe surviving the island is going to be tougher than surviving the plane crash. It's it was actually really good. The action was good. I mean, the storyline was kind of generic, but I enjoyed whatever. Mike Coulter was in it. Luke Cage from Marvel. I know that Beers doesn't like Marvel.
I like Luke Cage.
Anymore.
Luke Cage was fine.
I wish
First
they
half
would have.
of it was very good.
Wish they would have
I
had
love
more
Nick
seasons.
Cage.
That's right. So I enjoyed that. So that's my shot clock review. I give it like a 7, 7.5.
I don't
Also,
think I've heard of this movie.
my shot clock review on Being Sick, it sucks. I give it a 0. There you go. Done. It's a transition 3. It's a transition 3. I don't need the shot clock there.
I have some great reviews.
Plane was good. I really liked it.
Is it a streaming movie or is it out in theaters? Where'd you see it?
Is it is in theaters unless you have a certain app that gets some movies from theaters to that app.
I will do a bonus one here. Go see Full Swing. Go see it. It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
Even
yeah.
if you're not
I
a
haven't
golf
started
fan,
it yet.
My son and my
need to start it.
wife love it, and they're not big, huge PGA fans, but it's good.
Well, typically your cul-de-sac is into the Full Swing.
Loves it. Loves the Full Swing.
Great news for the Plane heads, by the way. Plane is getting a sequel. It's called
Planes.
Ship. This is not a joke.
Really?
That is really the sequel.
Is Gerard Butler in it? Is Mike Coulter in it?
I've not read the rest of the story.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. I don't think there was it wasn't sequel worthy. There wasn't really any lead into, hey, this is going to be it's not like a Marvel movie where you always have the end of credits, a little scene to lead into the next
People
one.
still haven't learned. Don't walk out yet.
You don't walk out on that. Credits? No, not at all. All right, we'll take a time out. We'll come back, wrap the show next.
Mick Shaffer is brought to you by Atomic Cowboy Sports Saloon. As seen on Food Network, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and Man vs. Food, try it today at 42nd and Pennsylvania in Westport.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I just play a braggadocio badass on the radio. In real life, I am very humble.
If I ever host a career day.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, wrapping things up here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson, Josh Brisco, Beards, Mick Shaffer, Soren Petro. His final show from Surprise, Arizona today.
So he's down in the desert still.
He is, yeah, but it's not as nice today. They had a winter storm come through.
He'll tell us the weather right off the bat.
Leabo said there was like a new, you would know, like a man on the street news story for meteorologists. They were at a coffee shop, and one of the gentlemen there, they usually ride their bikes there, but they had to drive there because it was such a bad storm. He had mentioned that when he walked out, his mat had blown off his porch. In his yard, it was so bad. That thing moved 5 feet.
We will rebuild.
That thing moved 5 feet. I better get in the car, honey. I'm not going to ride my... That mat was right here, and it is right there today.
It's either a ghost or a really strong wind, like maybe 9 miles an hour.
At least that might have gusted up to 15. I'm not sure.
I am. These are all jealous words. I want to live in a place where it's the same nice weather every day.
Agreed. Where the winter storm is like, it got all the way down to 42 today. And it rained with 42. That's a winter storm. He will continue the coverage there in Surprise, Arizona today. But good stuff coming out of it, and the Royals get underway on Friday.
Yeah, right away. Sweet mate.
Daniel Lynch to the mound.
There we go.
See, I told you opening day starter wasn't Brady Singer.
Bigger bases, shot clock, let's go.
Shot clock. We'll give reviews on that next week. Program next.